Good evening and welcome. Tonight is Monday, June 9th, 2025. This is a regular meeting of the Minnetonka City Council. I will call the meeting to order and ask you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Larson, good evening. Would you please call roll?
Wilburn.
Here.
Calvert.
Here.
Rameli.
Here.
Coakley.
Here.
Foster Bolton.
Here.
Shack.
Here.
Wearsome.
Here. Next item is approval of the agenda, and I believe we have an addendum. Mr. Funk.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. There is an addenda for your consideration. It's related to item 13D, use of the Community Investment Fund to finance renovation of Ice Arena B refrigeration improvement project. We just, as staff, want to make sure we're clear in the motions that are required of the Council this evening. When you look at the original staff report, there are kind of three recommended actions. One is to continue the public hearing and accept comments. That is correct. Item 2 is a motion to adopt the resolution. What staff is recommending for your consideration is an expansion of that second motion. And in the addenda in front of you, it states motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the use of the Community Investment Fund to finance improvements to Ice Rink B and award the contract for the Rink B refrigeration improvement project, project number 25205, to Total Mechanical Services, Inc., in the amount of $2,137,400, which includes option 2 add and voluntary deducts. It's really the second half of what I just mentioned to you. We just want to make sure we're very specific on awarding the contract to the contractor noted in the addenda and the dollar amount. That's not specifically spelled out in the resolution. It doesn't really necessarily need to be, but we just want to make sure we're clear on that, what motion you're approving this evening. And then the third item, there's a third recommended action that also remains the same. So there are still 3 recommended actions for agenda item 13D. We're just adding language to the second part of that recommended motion. Happy to answer any questions on that if that didn't sound too convoluted. Mayor and Council, turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Mr. Funk, I do have a question, because just at the bottom of the addendum, it says recommended action, no action required, informational only. So that confused me a bit, because it sounds like we are taking actions. Should that not be there, or what am I not getting about that?
Yeah, I think that was
a carryover?
It's probably a carryover.
Okay,
so
well,
very good question. Cross that out.
I'm going to cross that out and we'll be good.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we've got the agenda and we've got an addendum. Is there a motion, Council? Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move approval of the agenda as amended.
Is there a second? Councilmember Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Shack. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Rameli.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wearsome.
Yes, motion carries. Item 5 is approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes. The first is the May 5, 2025 regular meeting minutes, and the second is the May 19th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. Are there any comments, or is there a motion? Councilmember Shack. Oops, I'm sorry.
Do you have a comment?
I do. I just wanted to mention that I did mention a few sort of minor changes to the May 5th regular meeting minutes. Some of them were just grammatical, and then there was just sort of a correction of or an addition to something that I personally know I said that I thought should be included.
Very good. And Councilmember Rameli?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I had something similar I spoke with Mr. Funk about. I hadn't heard back from staff yet, so I just wanted to make sure that I think on pages 9 and 10, I made some updates. Mr. Funk, are you aware of the status of those?
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry about that. Thank you. Mayor, Councilmember Maley. Yes, so for all the items noted by council regarding the minutes, those have been passed on to our city clerk. As you know, she does go through and listen to the audio recording, and then once she verifies the actual changes, we will indicate that to you by email. So we'll send that out to you from the city clerk.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. And then I made some similar changes, one of which was making sure that we got Rolf Sponheim's name spelled correctly. We wanted to recognize him, so we wanted to do that. So anyway, so with that, we had a number of changes. Is there a motion? Councilor Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. I will move approval of both sets of minutes noting those requested changes.
And Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Shack and a second by Councilmember Foster Bolton. Ms. Larson, and it is Ms. Larson.
Indeed.
Please call roll.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romaley.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wearsome.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is special matters, and we have 3 special matters tonight. The first is item 6A is Trunk Highway 7 Corridor Study Update. And Mr. Olson, or is it Mr. Cuno? Mr. Cuno, there you are, excuse me. Pardon my mispronunciation, Mike, I apologize.
No concerns. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mike Cuno, Deputy Public Works Director, filling in for Mr. Manchester tonight. I am here to welcome Paul Glaser with Bolton and Mink and Faith Xiong with MnDOT. MnDOT is leading a Highway 7 corridor study, and they're here to update us on the progress of the study as well as take feedback from the council. Also here tonight is Phil Olson, our city engineer, who's been working with MnDOT on this study. With that, I'll turn it over to Paul and Faith, who will give a short presentation and then turn back to the council for questions and comments. Thank you.
Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Thank you again for inviting us here today. I am Faith Shaw, the MnDOT project manager for this study, and we are here today to share a little bit about the revised or refined proposed alternative for the study area, as well as share an update on where we are at with the study. So I'm going to turn over to Paul to do that presentation.
Yeah, thanks for having me tonight. This presentation is a little longer than what we have time for, so I'm going to go pretty quickly through it and skip some pieces, but I'll hit the highlights of the presentation for y'all. So our intended meeting outcomes, we want to look through these refined alternatives tonight for Highway 7. We're going to present our evaluation of those alternatives and then gather feedback from you. So some of the needs that we identified on the study have been vehicle safety, vehicle mobility, walkability, and bikeability. So those are the major corridor needs out there. So segment 1, this is the first segment of the study. It goes from St. Bonifacius to Chanhassen or Shorewood area, Highway 41. We'll go through these alternatives that we looked at. We first looked at the no-build alternative, and this is something that we look at with every project first. We look at what's out there today and how does it operate today and how does it operate in the future. Usually it's not an alternative that we would select for a lot of reasons. Usually it doesn't fully address the corridor needs, and in this case it does not. The existing corridor out here is 2-lane. For this segment, generally it has high-speed signals that have been contributing to crash problems, and it's a pretty circuitous route. It's had a lot of runoff the road crashes as well, and head-on crashes. So the first build alternative that we looked at for this segment was a roundabout corridor with median barrier. This corridor would incorporate roundabouts at most of the major intersections: Highway 92, Kings Point Road's an existing roundabout, CSAH 44, CSAH 13, Rolling Acres Road, Mini Washita Parkway, which is side stop control today, would be converted to a roundabout, and then Highway 41. This does address the safety needs really well, as well as some of the side road mobility concerns. One other piece with this alternative is median barrier would be installed between these roundabouts for access control along the corridor. The second alternative, which is similar but different, we wanted to look at what would different intersections look like outside of roundabouts along this corridor. So we did look at some different intersection alternatives with alternative 4. This alternative has a signal which would be revised in St. Bonifacius. It kept the roundabout at Kings Point Road. CSAH 44 would be a green T intersection. There's one on Highway 12 near Montrose, if you're not familiar with what a green T looks like. CSAH 13 would be an RCI, most likely a signalized RCI. Minnewaska Parkway would be an RCI, and then 41 would be a signalized RCI. So RCIs are intersections where you can't make a direct left out. You can make a left in. To make a left out, you need to take a right and then go down to a U-turning location and make a U-turn. They are proven to be safer intersections, and they do work on this corridor, and this alternative does have some benefits for mainline travel time, and it does improve safety. It comes at the cost of higher impacts, because this is today a undivided corridor, and usually you see RCI type intersections on divided corridors. So at the intersection locations, they would have to be divided. So high level, how do these rank comparatively? The no build, not surprisingly, doesn't do very well. It doesn't rank very well for safety. It doesn't address the side road delay that's out here. It doesn't address the ped and bike concerns very well, so it does not score all that well. The two alternatives, the roundabout corridor and what we call the reduced conflict intersection corridor, both do address the needs fairly well, with the roundabout corridor being a little bit more advantageous when it comes to the side road mobility, and has less impacts overall than the RCI corridor. So the technical recommendation for segment 1 is likely going to be the roundabout corridor. And publicly this has been presented, and the feedback has been fairly receptive to that alternative. So segment 2, which Minnetonka is probably most concerned about, which is from Highway 41 to Highway 494, we looked at 4 alternatives, one being the no-build alternative. So we'll skip through a couple slides. The no-build, again, not an alternative that really addresses the need. This is a 4-lane high-speed signalized corridor. A lot of accident history at the signals, a lot of mobility challenges at the signals, particularly on the side roads. The benefit of the no build is it would minimize costs. It would be a cost savings and minimize the environmental impact, but it wouldn't really address the major needs out here. So the first alternative we looked at was, can we convert these intersections that exist today on this corridor to other types of intersections, and those being at grade intersections. So we looked at roundabouts, basically from Highway 41 up to County Road 101. So that would be 41, Oak Street, Christmas Lake Road, Old Market Road, and Vine Hill would all be converted to a roundabout. Highway 101 would be a unique intersection. It would be called a continuous flow intersection. There's actually not one in the state of Minnesota right now. There's several in Utah. They're large intersections. They can handle a lot of traffic, but they do struggle in other areas, particularly for pedestrians, because they're very large. Tonkawood would remain an existing signal, and then Williston would be a signalized RCI. So signalized RCI, there's one in the state of Minnesota. It's on Highway 65 at Viking Road. So they're a newer type of intersection for signalizing an RCI. This alternative does pretty well for safety, and it's a little bit more challenging with the pedestrian environment, but the roundabouts do slow people down, so that's a positive on the western side. Some of the larger intersections, though, will still be challenging for peds. It is lower cost than grade separated alternatives, but less overall benefit. So the next alternative we looked at is probably the other end of the spectrum, right? So it's what, if we have a 4-lane, high-speed signalized corridor, the upper end of what you would convert that to would be a freeway. So we did look at converting this to a freeway, and it does score very well on from a benefit standpoint, but obviously the trade-off is high cost and high impact. I will caveat this slide and said we looked at interchanges along each of these intersections. In reality, when this would come to be developed, most of these locations likely wouldn't have an interchange. They'd have a grade separation, and then a selected few of them would have an interchange. So you might see 2 to 3 interchanges along this stretch of roadway, not 6. So just some images here, what they could look like. And we can back up. We have images in the slide if we have time and people are curious what they look like. And then alternative 4, so we said, okay, there's the at-grade solution and there's the freeway solution. Neither seems perfectly fitted to the corridor. What if we did a hybrid scenario? So this is alternative 4, basically somewhat combining those two alternatives and kind of continuing a roundabout corridor that we started on the west in segment 1 and going through about Old Market Road. So you'd have roundabout intersections, Highway 41, Oak Street, Old Market, and then potentially Vine Hill. Vine Hill is kind of like a demarcation point in the volume and kind of how the traffic pattern works, that somewhere around that point would be the freeway conversion start. So Vine Hill, potentially a grade separation, and then 101 as an interchange, Tonka Wood as a grade separation, and then Williston as an interchange. So basically the western portion of segment 2 would be at grade, and then the eastern portion would be freeway. That matches up pretty well with the volumes out here. So there is a pretty large volume drop at 101, and there's a lot of traffic between 101 and 494. So this alternative does really well for mobility and safety as well, and definitely improves the bike and pedestrian safety. One of the challenges, it's still a high cost alternative. Even converting half the corridor to freeway is going to be costly. So how did these score? No build, just like the previous segment, doesn't score very well. It doesn't address the needs. The at-grade does pretty well, but it introduces some delay to the corridor that you don't get with the freeway and the hybrid alternative, particularly at this high volume kind of eastern end of this segment. The grade separated alternative, the freeway kind of alternative, scores the best, but also has the highest impact and highest cost. So in that area, it does not score well. And then the hybrid kind of balances those needs pretty well. So right now, the technical recommendation for that stretch of road is the hybrid, basically taking a portion of it, converting it to an at-grade roundabouts, and then converting the rest to freeway.
Very good.
There are some bicycle and pedestrian improvements also being proposed. On segment 1, we are looking to do a continuous trail. On segment 2, we're really focusing on the crossing of Highway 7 and trying to improve the crossing. So we are investigating on segment 2 different locations where we could do grade separated crossing, especially if there are at grade alternatives. And then with a freeway conversion, we'd get grade separation with the interchanges or the grade separation. So that would be one additional benefit of that solution. And the next step in the plan is to finish our public engagement, make our final recommended alternative, and then look at implementation, which would look at how do we fund these projects, who leads them, who coordinates them, and how do they phase out over time. And that's going to happen through this summer, and then we'll have a final report in September. So,
Very good.
yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to just ask if council has any specific questions they'd like to ask. We don't want to take too much time, but we really appreciate you being here, and this is an important issue for our community. So, Councilmember Foster Bolton.
So the final report is going to be, can you go back to
Yeah,
that page?
I can go back.
So it's in August and September.
Yep.
So that's when you say how much this is going to cost, essentially, right?
The final report will have estimated costs in it. We have some of that information now. And the implementation plan will also break out, okay, if we do these in multiple projects, what do they cost?
Okay.
So,
And my question to the staff or whoever is like, when is this money going to need to be raised? Do you know what I mean? Like, and what's our
Mr.
Future
Cuno?
look- future.
You have a thought on that, or Mr. Olson? But go ahead, Mr. Cuno?
Yeah, obviously the project is quite a ways away. This is just the initial report kind of outlining the proposed improvements, and we would have time to then work with MnDOT on some of those factors and, what additional improvements we would need. Phil, I welcome your input too, as he's worked with MnDOT on this.
Mr. Olson, good evening.
Mayor and Council, thank you. So this right now is just a planning document to really understand what the corridor is and the intersections and to identify the right plan moving forward. This is a planning document, so the implementation stage will be next. So after this document is complete, then we look for ways how to implement which projects are to be priority and to move forward that way.
All right,
I'm sorry.
and then
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
you're good.
Don't
So
be sorry.
that
you're a council member.
implementation process takes a year, 5 years? That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, at this point, there isn't funding identified for any of the projects in this document. So after the project, or after the document is complete, then we start to look for funding, priority, and that type of thing. So it's beyond,
Okay.
a 1 to 5 year range.
Some of us none of us may be on the council by the time we're actually talking about work being done. I mean, this is probably, 10 to 15 years?
Okay.
Start to finish, Mr. Funk?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. I think that's this is the first step in this whole process, is just understanding the scope of the project. In that implementation phase, I think you've heard Mayor and Council, Mr. Wiersum, or Mayor Wiersum's talked about the work that the city of Minnetonka is doing with the other 12 or 14 cities along the corridor. And we've been studying a TMO, which is a transportation management organization. And so there's the work of the TMO that's getting lifted off the ground. If you recall, the city of Shorewood received $200,000 from the state of Minnesota as seed money to start that TMO. So that work is happening. So there'll be a consultant that's going to be hired and that will help lead this process. So all the cities along this corridor have a vested interest in these outcomes. And so there'll be, it's hard to say exactly the timeline today, what that all looks like, but it is decade plus type of work. And I think we've talked, Mayor's talked about just the work with the federal government and advocating for funds and working with our colleagues with the state of Minnesota on pulling funding together, identifying priority projects. It's not going to all happen in 1 year. So there's what we've seen with other highway coalitions, and you can use like I-94 up in the St. Michael, Albertville area. When you drive up that way, there's lots of construction over the years. That's been a result of the work similar to this. They were in this spot 20 years ago. And so it's just this ongoing work and identifying projects and identifying the funding.
Thank you, Mr. Funk.
Thank you.
Councilmember O'Malley?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick circling back to the Minnetonka segment. I probably just missed it. You were talking about pedestrian safety. If you go with the technical recommendation for the hybrid model, how my word touches is right on the border, and it goes over to Minnetonka High School. So I'm on one side, Minnetonka High School is on the other side. We've had a lot of issues and deaths and things like that. How does that, is that foreseen in the plan? I'm not going to ask you to go into detail about what it is, but I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding that is going to be either a pedestrian something higher, but you were saying something at grade, so I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, it varies a little bit by what alternative is ultimately selected. If something more at grade is put in at Vine Hill, you're probably going to see a grade separated pedestrian overpass near the high school.
Great.
If it goes to a freeway alternative, you kind of get that with the interchanges on each end. Or
For
the grades-
pedestrians?
For pedestrians,
Oh,
because
cool.
you're taking Highway 7 and you're separating it from
Got it.
the side road traffic. So that way pedestrians can cross and not have to interact with Highway 7, so.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, thank you all. I mean, this is an important early step. This is not the first step, but it's pretty darn close to the first step. And I know, and I've shared with the council that in past years, I've gone with the Transportation Alliance, and we're going to do that again this year. Our message to our federal officials, our representatives and senators, was that we talked about Highway 7, and we said, we're coming. We don't have a plan yet, we're coming. I think the meeting with the Transportation Alliance is in September. With this, we can say, we're coming, and these are some of the things we're looking at. But we don't have a plan, but we're making progress, and I think that's really important. But I really think it's a long, we'll say it's intermediate term, but that's 10 years plus before we would have a totally new roadway, and it's about safety. I mean, it really is. The one nice thing that happened when we go to Washington, every person I talk to, every elected official I talk to, whether a senator or a representative, they're familiar with Highway 7, and they don't argue. They say, you're right, Highway 7 needs the work. That everyone, we don't have to sell that. We are going to have to ask for a lot of money at some point. So anyway, thank you very much. I think this is an important first step. Mr. Cuno, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Nope.
Well, thank you very much for your work, and good to have you here. Welcome to Minnetonka.
And I'll just add, I did, for the sake of time, skip over this slide, but it's probably an important slide. These are and not a great slide, right? These are the crashes, severe crashes that happened on Highway 7 in 2024, and it was not a good year for Highway 7. There was 5 fatalities and 3 severe injury crashes. Yeah. So highlights the need of why we're seeking the funds and with you to do this project. So
right. Well, we're in this together. And one other question that I didn't ask. And it's a little bit of a dangerous question, but it's clear on some of the recommendations for the intersections. But in these plans, are there recommendations for closures of access to Highway 7 from side roads and things like that currently have access and may not in the future?
With a freeway conversion, if there was in a segment of the corridor, there would need to be access closures that come along with that. The exact details of how those would be handled and where they would connect and where those connections would be made would be developed later,
right,
through the process. There will be some level of access closure or change with the at-grade alternatives potentially as well. Most of that will be conversion to right in, right out, where they use the roundabouts to U-turn on the corridor. So,
all right. Well, thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cuno. Thank you so much. So that was special matter information, and then the next item is a presentation by the Excelsior Lions Club, and I believe we have a representative. Welcome. And I want to say that it's Josh Radzib.
Radzib, yep.
Well, I apologize
that's
for
okay.
my pronunciation,
No
but that's all right. Welcome to you both, and please introduce yourselves and then make your report.
Thanks for having us. My name is Josh Radzib, and this is Jim Flatta. I am the community liaison for the Excelsior Lions Club, and Jim is our president. Today, I'll tell you just a little bit about we'll keep it as brief as possible. I'll tell you a little bit about the Excelsior Lions Club, who we are, what we are, and why we're here today. The Excelsior Lions Club has about 65 members. Today, we do a lot of community projects. We have a meat raffle that goes through the winter at Haskell's. We do a pub crawl for childhood cancer, and we have a golf tournament as well as some other things that we volunteer and participate in throughout the year. We're really excited to announce that we're actually going to be having the Excelsior Christmas Market this year in downtown on Water Street, that we would invite people from all over the lakes to come and join us. It'll be fun, it'll be free. We're super excited to put that message out there. So that's a little bit about our club. We've actually been asked to, during the pandemic, and we all went through changing in our environment, and the Excelsior Lions Club barely survived that. And like I said, today We have 65 members, and we're really thriving, and we've been able to give a lot back to the community, and we're really excited about that. And in doing so, the Lions International, I believe, is who has come to us and said, hey, can you help us get the Minnetonka Lions going again? Because it used to be such a really great club. So we're here today. Jim can tell us a little bit more about that and how you guys can help us.
Yes, as Josh mentioned, we've been asked to sponsor the rejuvenation and rebirth of the Minnetonka Club. So we've been hosting informational meetings at the Sheridan Minneapolis West Hotel. The next information meeting is Wednesday, the 7th at 7 p.m. And we're trying to put the word out in the community that the Lions exist and that the Minnetonka Club is reopening. So we'd like for your support in helping us create that awareness, and just knowing that we're trying to bring that back into your community and have people who live in Minnetonka and work in Minnetonka participate in serving and being a part of the community of Minnetonka and helping to raise funds and give back to your community. I know many of you are aware of what the Lions do. I was here last year and presented to you, so you may remember me. I recall Dr. Wilburn's father is a Lion, or was a Lion, and so we're very passionate about what we do, and we're very excited to help bring the club back to Minnetonka. We've offered support in the interim to this community, and we want to really see a new Minnetonka Lions Club founded back here. So we're working hard to do that for you. We're hoping to have a presence at the farmers market or any other city approved events where we can be and spread information. So hopefully you'll see our faces at community events as we go forward and hear more about the club being regenerated.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Council, any questions? You know, I will just say, one, welcome to Minnetonka. Great to have you here, and I do thank you for coming last year. And yeah, I'd be happy to talk further, because I really appreciate the work that the Lions does. The Lions Club does, and service organizations in our community are big contributors to our city. So I've got some events this week that I'll be attending and being involved with. So wish you well, and I'll speak for myself and say I would very much welcome having the Lions Club back in Minnetonka as a presence. So wish you well, and want to help in any way we can.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you. So then the next item on the agenda, next special item, is the proclamation for Pride Month. And I've asked Councilmember Coakley to read that proclamation. Councilmember Coakley.
Thank you, Mayor. So the LGBTQ plus Pride Month, June 1st to the 30th, 2025. Whereas the month of June is celebrated as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer Pride Month, commemorating the historic 1969 Stonewall riots in New York City, in the first Pride Month in New York in June 1970. And whereas Pride Month brings awareness to historic and present day discrimination, harassment, and violence toward individuals who identify as LGBTQ+, and whereas Pride Month affirms the dignity, equal rights, and visibility of individuals who identify as LGBTQ+, builds community and celebrates sexual identity, diversity, and gender variance. And whereas LGBTQ+ people have made and continue to make great and lasting contributions that strengthen the fabric of society. And whereas all people deserve to live with dignity and respect, free from fear and violence, and protected against discrimination, regardless of their gender, identity, or sexual orientation. And whereas celebrating Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for LGBTQ+ community, and is an opportunity to take action, engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. And whereas the City of Minnetonka includes and celebrates the LGBTQ+ community as part of its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And whereas the City of Minnetonka calls upon the community to work together to promote equal rights and eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Coakley. So that's it for our special matters. Next item is reports from the city manager and council members, and I'll turn first to Mr. Funk.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening again, Council. A couple things for your consideration this evening. First off, we opened Shady Oak Beach, and so thank you to Mr. O'Day and our team. This last Saturday, June 7th, we opened up, and so there are season passes available, daily passes available. And I would just note that I think you've heard from staff in years past, sometimes we've had some challenges with hiring lifeguards. This year went like a breeze, and so really good efforts on our staff part, and so things are off and running very well. Also starting this last week was the farmers market. So that starts again, it started on June 3rd and will run through September 30th. That's on Tuesday evenings from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We had our first farmers market, and happy to report 600 people were present. And so it's off to a really good start. We did change locations this year. It had been up at the Ridgedale Commons the last 2 years. Looked at a change in venue, and at least from the first week, numbers are significantly up. So we're pleased about that, and people are excited to be back closer to our city campus. Also want to mention that coming up on June 21st from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, we do have the Sounds of Blackness. So our DEI Senior Coordinator, Jace Alexander, has been working with a number of partners, and that is on your agenda this evening as we look at partnering for bringing in the Sounds of Blackness. So we invite anyone from the community to this free event. We'll have food trucks, music, dancing throughout the whole afternoon. And it is free, and there are no tickets that are required. I think then, I should also mention this last Saturday as well. A lot of things happening this last week. We had our first of 2 annual drop-off events. And so thank you to Will Manchester, our public works staff, and other members of our team from other departments that help out. I always get a couple of comments. Hopefully you do as well. Residents really appreciate the availability of that drop-off. And so very well attended as always. And weather was good for it. So again, thank you to our staff and to the community that took advantage of one of those drop-off events. The next one will be September 6th. So I'll mention that later here this summer. And then I'll just close up by saying just a little fun thing that one of our staff members brought to our attention, that tonight is a rare full moon. It's the strawberry moon. So if you're not aware, tomorrow night, June 10th, into Wednesday, June 11th, it's the strawberry moon. It'll be the largest and lowest in the sky until 2043. So if you get out and about, you'll see a red-colored moon the next couple nights. So just a little fun fact for you. I'll end my comments.
Thank you for that fun fact, Mr. Funk. That's good. So council members, anything that you'd like to report? Councilmember Shack.
Thank you. It seems like a while ago now, but a couple weeks ago we celebrated and thanked our boards and commissions members at dinner, and we had a very nice speaker. And I just the impact that these volunteers make on our community and the insight and advice that they provide the council is really invaluable, and it's a great way to get involved with the work that we do here at the city. So I really encourage people when we call for applicants in the fall, late fall, to sign up, and you don't get much by way of compensation, but every year we have a very lovely thank you event with very engaging and interesting speakers. So I thank staff for that, and just want to publicly reiterate my thanks to the boards and commission members for their service.
Thank you, Councilor Shack. Other comments, anyone? Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you. Yes, I totally agree with Councilmember Shack. These are incredible people, and I have the privilege of being the council liaison to the Economic Development Advisory Commission. They've had a meeting since the last regular council meeting, and they were taking their first bite at the economic improvement program, and the people on that body have a wealth of knowledge. I know sometimes staff has remarked that they learn from them. I certainly learn from them, and if you have expertise to lend to our Sustainability Commission or our Planning Commission, it's very gratifying. I know Councilmember Shack and I were both on the Planning Commission, and you do learn a lot, and you really get involved in the issues that shape the city. So it's a great way to cut your teeth on public service and do a service to the city. So, and I just want to thank the people on the EDAC because it was a really good meeting, and we have a lot of new members on our commissions, and I was able to actually do my job and provide some context for them on sort of where the city council is at on some of the issues that the newer members wouldn't know about. I also wanted to mention that I'm on the National Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources Committee for the National League of Cities, and we do have phone calls when we don't meet in person, and we are getting ready for our summer leadership meeting, which will be next month. And it's very gratifying to do that work. So we had our first phone call getting ready for that this month, and I just want to thank Jace Alexander for his incredible work on our community events, our cultural events that celebrate the rich tapestry of cultures in our city, and making sure that there are things to celebrate that speak to everyone in our community. And I'm really jealous because I work for the city of St. Paul, and I was on the Black History Month committee for 4 years at least, maybe 5, and we could never get Sounds of Blackness. So he's got the inside scoop somehow, even though we tried. And so I just want to say, you know, this is in celebration of Juneteenth, which has to do with the ending of slavery, and I can't think of a better occasion to celebrate in our country. And it's also Pride Month, and so I just want to say happy Pride to everyone that it's important to. And I think something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is there's a lot of strife in the world. There is a lot of conflict here and abroad, and there have been some terrible things that have happened in our country recently. 2 Israeli young diplomats who literally dedicated their lives to peace were shot in front of a museum, and 12 people who were marching for the release of hostages were set on fire, one of which was a Holocaust survivor. And I just want to say that there are people that are trying to make their voices heard to protect the most vulnerable residents in our country and around the world, and that we have to take care of each other. And if, you know, peace starts with us. So I just want you to think about reaching out to your neighbors, checking in with them, making sure that they're okay. Perhaps consider contributing to a nonprofit that supports vulnerable members of our community here or elsewhere, because we have to take care of each other and be kind. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Councilmember Calvert. Anyone else? I've got a couple things that I wanted to mention. First of all, 81 years and 3 days ago was June 6, 1944, D-Day, which led to the liberation of Europe and the discovery of a lot of horrific things that had happened during World War II in Europe. I can tell you that on June 5th of 1944, and the morning of June 6, 1944, my uncle was in a C-47 dropping gliders behind the lines as part of the D-Day invasion that was ultimately successful and changed the course of history. So I want to thank all veterans and recognize that important event in our history. Then, I want to just add a little bit to what Councilmember Calvert had to say. And I'm looking at our strategic plan. And we have 6 pillars in our strategic plan. And one is about community inclusiveness. And I'm just going to read this. Build an engaged, accepting, and compassionate community that embraces diversity and varied perspectives to create an inclusive and equitable city for everyone. All people should feel welcome and engaged, enhance community representation through art and imagery, and create and expand equitable opportunities for accessing programs, services, and facilities. And adding to what Councilmember Calvert had to say, these are challenging times in our country and in our world. We are experiencing in our society and society around the world hatred for people who are different than other people. And that has no place in a free society. It has no place in our city. And, we can disagree without vilifying the people who disagree with us. We can be different from one another without vilifying people who are different than we are. We want to be inclusive, we want to be welcoming, and I'll even go so far as to say we want to be loving, because we need that. And without it, we will not be a successful society or a successful city. So let's just, there are times when we see things and we get mad and we say, let's not say it. Let's try and elevate ourselves to be better than that and be kind and recognize that even though people are different than we are, even though they have different perspectives than we have, they deserve our respect and our compassion. We do not have to agree to be respectful and to be compassionate. So, pardon my soapbox, but I just think it's an important message in such challenging times that exist. And there are plenty of things that we can all get that are happening in our world that we can all get very excited about and upset about. But the point is that we should still do it in a respectful and kind and considerate way. So I'm done now, but I just wanted to share that point because I think it's really important, particularly as we consider we consider Pride Month, we consider the things that we're celebrating in our community. It really starts with each of us to make the decision to be kind and respectful to our fellow residents. So thank you for indulging me. So that brings us to item number 8. Citizens wishing to discuss matters not on the agenda. This is an open mic opportunity. If someone has something that is not on our agenda and you would like the council to be aware of it, please come forward, state your name and address, share it with us. We will not take any action on what you share with us today, but we will turn it over to staff and they will make a report back to us, and you will hear back from us regarding your concern. So is there anyone who would like to make a report? All right, anyone? All right, seeing no one, we are going to move on. And next item on the agenda is bids and purchases, and we have no bids and purchases tonight. So that is the next item is item 10, the consent agenda. And these are items that require a majority vote. And so the way the consent agenda works is that these are items that are typically quite routine. So we will read them into the record and we will vote on them in one motion and one vote. If someone, either in the audience or on the council, would like to pull an item for deeper conversation, we will vote on the items that have not been pulled and then turn it over to the person who pulled the item for them to make a comment, and then we'll act on the items that have been pulled. So item 10A is the 2025 Community Survey and Organizational Merit. Item 10B is a resolution authorizing performance measurement reporting program. And item 10C is a resolution supporting the reappointment of a board member to the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District Board. Would anyone like to pull any of those items? Councilmember Wilburn.
I'd like to pull 10B.
Very good. We will pull item 10B. Is there anyone else who would like to pull something? Otherwise, is there a motion on the remaining items? Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move approval of items 10A and 10C.
Councilmember Coakley.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Councilmember Calvert. The alliteration's getting me. So Councilmember Calvert and second by Councilmember Coakley. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romaili,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wearsum.
Yes, motion carries. And now, returning to item 10B, the resolution authorizing performance management reporting program. Councilmember Wilburn.
Yes, so as I was looking at this resolution, I had some discussions with Mr. Funk that, like, what is it, $7,600 that we get from doing the work, that's staff does the work. That, like, that's not, it's not a huge amount of money, so I had questions about, is it worth it? How much staff time goes into it? Is this a fund that, like, all the cities pay into, and we get money back out if we fill this thing out, but otherwise it just our money goes away? And Mr. Funk wasn't sure on the second one where the money comes from, but he did say that, like, these are metrics that we are already collecting, so it's not a big ask for staff to fill out the money, fill out the forms, and get the money. But it just struck me that these are sort of the kind of things when we talk about looking at what we've been doing and if we need to continue doing them, these are the kind of things that we need to take a good look at and say, well, is it worth the amount of time and effort we're putting into for what we get back? So that was it. I have no objections to it, to this particular one. So, yeah.
Very good. And Councilmember Romaili?
Just to follow up on that question, perhaps staff, Mr. Funk could answer the question. What are these used for? My understanding was is that this is helping the state. Is that correct in terms of evaluating the effectiveness of local governments?
Yeah,
Mr. Funk.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Romaili, and Councilmember Wilburn. I'd invite Mr. Nelson to come up as well, our finance director. Mr. Nelson and his team put together a report. As Councilmember Wilburn mentioned, it is pretty de minimis work on our, not a lot of effort. I say not a lot of effort. Mr. Nelson can quantify that when I say not a lot of effort, because it's reporting metrics that we do track already. So it's not as though we're needing to create data, track down data. It's data that we have. We can easily pull it together, put it in the report, and receive the $7,600. It's something the state started back in 2010. Well intended at that time. I think I shared with Councilmember Wilburn earlier. I'm not sure what the state does with all this data. We get $7,600 for filling out the report. What the state does with it, I can't answer unless Mr. Nelson has a better response than I do.
Mr. Nelson, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. To follow up on Mr. Funk's conversation on this, it really is data that comes out of our budgets to begin with. So we pretty much throw this report together pretty quickly on that end of it. We don't take any additional staff time. It's numbers that are already been generated and for the most part on that end of it. The state has, I don't have the report right in front of me, but I think there's 35 different criteria or measurements that they're looking for. And they put out a report then of all the cities that have filled out this report. I don't really know what the true benefit is of that, because if you're not having the same measurement across all cities are a little bit different. I don't know what your true benefit it is, but like I said, it is $7,600. It doesn't take us a whole lot of time. It helps us a little bit on that end of it, and we go through. And I don't know where the funding is. I think it's just a statutory, or it's through the legislature that was a law passed a number of years ago on that end of it. So it's funding that's there and available, and we're taking advantage of it, I guess. So.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Any other thoughts or comments on this? My only thought is, Mr. Funk's been pretty aggressive about putting a performance management program in our, as part of our operating system. And so my guess is we're collecting this data already. Dropping it into a report probably it's probably profitable for the city to pick up the $7,600 with having the information that we already collect. So, if it was a lot of work to, a lot of staff time to chase things down to fill this, then maybe we'd have a different perspective. But I think this is, with the performance management system we've got, and I go back to a boss that I had a long time ago who said, you are what you measure. And if you measure it, you value it, and if you value it. So I think the discipline is good, and if we're already doing it, I feel comfortable with it. So, all right, let's see, do we have a motion yet? Councilmember Wilburn, would you like to make the motion?
Sure. I move that we pass the resolution for 10B. The resolution authorizing performance measurement and reporting program.
Very good. And Councilmember Calvert?
Second.
Okay. And Councilmember Mailey, did you have a comment, or were you going to say?
No, I
Okay,
just-
sorry about that. All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Wilburn and a second by Councilmember Calvert. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romaili,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. And item 11 is also consent agenda items. These will require 5 votes. And item 11A is acceptance of community education funds for Juneteenth. So does anyone want to pull that, or would you just like to vote? Councilmember Calvert.
I would like to make the motion, I move approval of item 11A, acceptance of community education funds for Juneteenth.
And is there a second? Councilmember Wilburn.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Wilburn. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romaili,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. Item 12 is introduction of ordinances, and we have none. Next is item 13, which is public hearings, and we have several public hearings tonight. First, item 13A is the temporary on-sale liquor license for the Rotary Club of Minnetonka Foundation at 14600 Minnetonka Boulevard. And Ms. Wishnack, that is your report.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. This is a temporary license for selling liquor at the Summerfest at City Hall here and the city campus. So we have done this before with the Rotary Club. We have not had any challenges with alcohol at the event, which is a very positive thing. We of course have police officers on duty as well, just to manage crowd issues, that sort of thing. As with all temporary license holders, and just because it's a city event doesn't mean they don't have to provide insurance. They do have to do that on their own, and they have fulfilled those requirements. And so we are recommending approval. Just a sidebar, they do have access to our machine that actually reads people's licenses rather than trying to interpret the actual age of somebody. It's a much faster way to get through and calculate people's age to ensure they're above 21. With that, Mayor, I'll turn it back to you and the council for a decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Wishnack. Council, any questions on this item? All right, this is a public hearing, so I have to open the public hearing. And I will ask, I see a familiar face here. Is there anyone who would like to come forward and comment on this item? Mr. Roseman, good to see you.
It's great to be seen.
Absolutely, it always is.
And it's such a pleasure to be back in front of you again this year for to be able to support such a wonderful event as Summerfest on June 28th. My name is Chris Rosenlund, 8672 Meadowvale Drive from Eden Prairie. And I'm here representing the Minnetonka Rotary Club Foundation in support of our temporary liquor license for providing alcoholic beverages at Summerfest. The Minnetonka Rotary Club is a club for building responsible youth, and the club is more fun than you want it to be. And we meet every Wednesday morning over at the Marsh from 7:15 to 8:30. And we also count, you've been a visitor, Mr. Mayor, and Ms. Shack is also one of our members, so we're very pleased to have you all there. But you're all welcome to attend as well as anybody in the audience. The proceeds, 100% of the proceeds, or the net proceeds of our beverage sales go into our foundation, which supports grants, donations, and scholarships to organizations such as Beds for Kids, Resource West, Empty Bowls, ICA Food Shelf. And we also provide scholarships for Minnetonka and Hopkins High School. So in addition to that, we also do work as in partnership with other clubs to support clean water projects in Central America and in Africa. And we also are part of Rotary International's overall efforts towards the eradication of polio. So that's where the funds are going from this great event. We've enjoyed, I think this is probably our 9th year doing this with I think that we had a little commercial there in the middle. It's called COVID. But we're very, very excited to be a part of this great community event for the city of Minnetonka.
Thank you, Mr. Roseland.
Thank
And thanks for the work that Rotary does. I know we've got an active club, and I would invite anyone listening and watching to please attend. It's a great group of people who care deeply about our community. And as Mr. Rosenlund said, it's as much fun as you want it to be. They do a lot of great work, and they have a lot of great time doing it. So thank you so much for your work.
Thanks for the kind words. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this item?
Go to Summerfest, it's awesome.
Very good. All right, is there anyone else for the public hearing? I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for consideration. Is there a motion? Councilmember Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. I will make the motion to grant the temporary on-sale liquor license to the Rotary Club of Minnetonka Foundation.
And is there a second, Councilmember O'Malley?
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Shack and a second by Councilmember O'Malley. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romalee,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. Item 13B is a similar item. It's another temporary on-sale liquor license for Boom Island Brewing Company, LLC, at 5959 Baker Road. Again, Ms. Wishnack.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Again, another summer event. This one will be on July 12th of this summer. And it is the anniversary party for the business. And they are holding what's called a block party. And the block party involves music and food trucks and games and special release beers that they've brewed at their property. There's a lot of fencing that goes on. They have to have a plan for their vendors, that sort of thing, and staff has reviewed all of that. Also to note, the music will be done by 10 p.m., which is required by ordinance, and we have all of the proper paperwork and all of the necessary items from the business. We do recommend approval of this temporary liquor license as well. Mayor, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Wishnack. I don't have any questions. Do any council members have any questions? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to come forward and with any comments on this item. I see somebody with a Boom Island shirt on, so I thought this might be the person who is going to comment, but how are you this evening?
Hi, thank you so much, Mayor and council members. I'm Laura McCauley. I'm co-owner and events manager for Boom Island Brewing. We are so excited to be celebrating 14 years as a business, almost 6 at this location in particular. So we'll be hosting a block party. It's basically Boom Days. We're rebranding it, and we're doing an actual live cookout. So we will have a catering company actually grilling out all day long with our live music and an awesome dessert truck, giveaways, beer releases, all the fun stuff to be had. So this is a free event. Everyone is welcome, and we hope to celebrate with all of you.
Very good. Thank you. Council, any questions for? All right. Well, I think we're good. But thank you so much, and good luck. Have a great event, and I hope the sun shines. All right. So is there anyone else who would like to comment on this item before I close the public hearing? Anyone? All right. We'll close public hearing and bring it back to the council for comments. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the privilege of going to Nights and Pints just a few short weeks ago at Boom Island, and it was such a fun event. One of the many bands that my daughter plays in was playing. They're sort of Celtic and maybe, I don't know, like Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know. It's super fun. And people were in costumes. I know they had sword fighting, and people were dressed up as fairies and knights and all kinds of cool things. So they do a lot of fun things down at Boom Island. So I highly recommend that people check it out, because that was just sort of an unexpected delight to go down there and see everyone in costume and everything. So
Very good. Any other comments or a motion? Councilmember Wilburn.
I move that we grant the temporary on-sale liquor license for Boom Island Brewing Company, LLC.
And is there a second? Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Wilburn and a second by Councilmember Foster Bolton. I will say that I'm very pleased that Boom Island chose Minnetonka when they decided to move out of the city of Minneapolis. They've been great neighbors, and it's a fun place, and we're fortunate that we have a lot of interesting venues in our community, but we're glad Boom Island is one. So with that, Ms. Larson, would you please call roll?
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romalee,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Wearsome.
Yes, motion carries. So item 10C, also a public hearing item, is Roland Investment LLC refinancing of Chase at 9 Mile Creek, which is located at 5709 Roland Road. And once again, Ms. Wishnack, we missed you while you were
I
gone.
know
so
you did. I had to come
it's
back.
good that we
Yes.
can kind of pile on a little bit.
That's right. We have a lot to do. Totally switching gears from liquor licenses, though, so we're going to move into finance. And really, this is about refinancing prior bonds that were issued to this project on Roland Road. If you don't remember the site or don't remember what it looks like, here it is. It's a lovely building that sits right on the creek, on 9 Mile Creek. It is 106 units of housing, and the original bonds that were issued, the multifamily housing revenue bonds, were to help with acquisition and construction and equipping the whole building at that site. Just a note, a side note, it's not totally germane to the issue that at hand, but you did have a requirement at that time for 21 of the units to be affordable housing at 50% AMI, and that will continue 30 years from 2015. So in 2045, those would continue to exist. So just a note for you on that. The borrower is now requesting the refinancing of these prior bonds, and it would be then for the city to issue tax-exempt revenue refunding bonds not to exceed around $13.5 million. And that would repay that outstanding bond, and then it would refinance the whole project, and Huntington Bank would be the entity purchasing the bonds from the city. This evening, it is required that you hold a hearing for this action, and following that hearing, you have to consider the resolution for approval of the bonds to refund the prior bonds. Then later this evening, after your regular council meeting, you'll call into session the EDA. They will also have to have a resolution approving the execution and delivery of an amended development agreement. I always like to put the disclaimers about these bonds because it's confusing to the public, I think, about what they are, how does it affect the city, that sort of thing. As our bond counsel has said as well, Julie Eddington is here tonight if you have specific technical questions. But it does not constitute a general obligation of the city, and that's important to note. They will not be secured or payable by any property or assets of the city, other than just the interest that we cite in the loan agreement. And then it's not secured by any taxing of the city. Also, it's not subject to the debt limitation. So those of you who have paid attention to our bond conversations over the years, it does not have any adverse effect on the city's tax credit rating. And even if they encounter some kind of financial difficulty, that still doesn't affect the city's credit rating. They're, and because they're considered private activity bonds, they're not public bonds. It also does not affect the maximum issuance of $10 million. We talk about this cap. It does not count against our bank qualified obligations, so that's good for us because we're bonding for other projects. And finally, Julie is here to answer any questions. The actual action for this part of the meeting is adopting the resolution authorizing the housing revenue bonds for the benefit of this entity. And there's some statutory notes. I'm not going to read it all because you'll probably read it back into your motion. So Mayor and council members, I'll turn it back to you to have any questions or discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wishnack. Council, this is a somewhat routine item, but do you have any questions for Ms. Wishnack? Councilmember Rameli.
Thank you, Mayor. My apologies in advance. As a newer council member, just wanted to make sure that I and maybe other people are kind of aware of kind of the situation here. I think I spoke with Mr. Funk about this earlier today, and I think just to confirm, what the purpose of this bond was originally, to, kind of confirm understanding of that. Again, and my understanding is it's a tax-exempt bond, private activity, in order that we issued based on that we were able to get probably a lower interest rate for this borrower than they would have been able to get as a commercial loan. And therefore, they were able to borrow in order to complete and build this project back in 2015. And the bank has an interest in it because they aren't taxed essentially on the interest income that they receive. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly, what everybody gets out of this?
Said, yes.
Okay.
And let me just turn to Julie Eddington. That's my understanding as well. And you would agree? Or would you like to add anything? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So now, here's where my question maybe comes in. We're basically extending this. It's like you're refinancing your mortgage, only on a higher level. So these guys are refinancing their mortgage. They're going to get that lower interest rate for an additional 10 years. The bank, is that correct?
Ms. Eddington, welcome.
Thank you.
You are correct that they are refinancing. So we had a deal that was done in 2015 to start the construction of the item that was on
that development. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they in 2015 they had a larger amount of interest. And today, when we approve this project, again, it's a refunding, they're going to have a better interest rate. And that's really why they're doing this, is to get a better interest rate.
So I understand, just like, our own individual mortgages, the rates have gone down, so they're refinancing, but they're also, just like when we do it as an individual refi, they're getting another 10 years. So their existing mortgage debt is getting folded in then and extended for an additional 10 years.
Correct.
At a lower rate.
Correct.
Okay. So my question is then, I guess, what is the benefit, I guess this might be for staff, to city, because basically they're going to get another 10 years on this loan. So instead of instead of going from 30 years from 2015, they're going to be going 30 years from 2025. And we still have 21 units of affordable housing that are still, their POA is going to end in 2045, which is 30 years from the original 2015. So I just was wondering if there's anything that the city is getting in consideration for basically giving this development an additional 10 years of lower refi, if there's anything in it for kind of our taxpayers.
The city does have a small fee for helping out with this. So that's what they get. And then the bank can prepay at any time as well. And that's probably what would happen at the end of the new bond issue. They would likely or may decide to prepay ahead of time.
You mean the developer or the owner?
Yes, the
Okay.
entity.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I get that, but they're still going to get 30 years from 2025 till 2055 on this new loan at a lower rate, correct?
I think it's 2045. I believe.
2045, yeah.
Oh, so it's a 20-year.
2045 on the affordability is, I think, what I was answering. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the loan, not the POA. So the period of affordability for, anyway, I was just trying to understand what, it seems like we're giving some additional benefit to the developer, to the owner of this development, and just was wondering what, get an additional affordable housing or anything like that. Just was wondering how this is working and why we're doing this. But that's all. Thank you.
I did have a comment.
Ms. Wishnack.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eddington. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Romali and other council members. I think that when you, as a city, aren't putting actual funds from the city, I think that's maybe the difference here. There's not an issue with the city. The city's not responsible for the payment of the bonds, that sort of thing. We're not the safeguard. We're not doing anything in terms of securing the loan. And I think that makes it way different than maybe other transactions that we're doing, which is putting up public money. Maybe we're using the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. You name the funding source. And usually the city is doing that kind of transaction, which is when we ask for more years of affordability or something like that. This is an activity, a private activity bond. We're the conduit for it. We do have a policy about this in our policy book about how we will approach those. So,
Okay, thank you. I just know, like, for variances and things like that, when we give variances sometimes to developers, we ask for, something. I didn't know if it was going to, kind of the same thing with this, but thank you for
Council, any other comments? I might just add a little bit. We have 21 units of affordable housing at 50% AMI, and part of this costs the city nothing, and in fact we get a little bit of a fee. Whether we're making a profit on that fee or not, I don't know. But to me, sending the message to the development community that this is a good place to do affordable housing, and we will work with you over the time to make your affordable housing project work better and longer. I kind of like having that message out in the development community that Minnetonka is a city that will work with you, and we are committed to affordable housing, and we want to help you make that possible. So even though we get nothing per se, I'm satisfied that we're going to have this affordable housing and that we're making this a more viable project for the developer. So I see that as a benefit, even though it's not a direct benefit. One person's opinion. So with that, let's see. We need to have a public hearing. So I will. Any other comments from council? All right, then I will open the public hearing. And would anyone like to come forward and comment on this item and this action regarding the issuance of multifamily housing revenue refunding bonds? Yes, please come forward, state your name and address.
Good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Leanna Stefaniak. I represent Roland Investments, LLC. I was actually the original presenter back in 2015 before this body. So thank you for having us here tonight, and thank you for considering our refinance. We've been very happy to be members of the Minnetonka community. We're very proud of our project. We've had 100% occupancy since we've moved in. Our affordable units have been very successful in the community, and has brought new residents to Minnetonka that may not have otherwise been here. So thank you for being our partners with this project, and we look forward to continued relationship.
Very good, thank you. I'm going to ask my council quickly if they have any questions for you. Okay, seeing that, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to comment on this item? Anyone? All right, I have to keep asking. So anyway, I will close the public hearing, and I will bring it back to the council for comment or a motion. Councilmember Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief comment, because I had the same thoughts that Councilmember Romali had when I was reviewing the packet, and I kind of went back to contract law, like what are we giving, and really just lending our name, and I think I think maintaining a viable operation is valuable to the city and our reputation. I'd encourage maybe, and I don't know. I mean, the property looks very nice. I haven't been on property in a long time, so I think they do a great job maintaining. But perhaps we can encourage, whether it's some, use the savings, whether it's to implement some sustainability elements or something, that would be a good gesture towards the city. But I'm supportive of this, and I think we would want to be giving more if we were expecting some continued term of affordability. So,
Thank you, Councilor Shack. Any other comments? Councilmember Romali?
Thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Shack, for those comments. I agree. I just, kind of was hoping to kind of confirm understanding of this, and I guess in future, not saying for this, hopefully we want to be good partners, and hopefully there'll be other developments like this as well. Just, perhaps something to think about in the future when we're in situations like this, either, something as a sign of goodwill, maybe a few more years of affordability, I don't know, for, one or more of the units, things like that we can think about in the future. So now that we kind of understand how it works, it's helpful. Thank you. And I'll be supporting.
All right. Councilmember Coakley?
I just want to make a quick comment because I didn't think about it the way that Councilmember Romali thought about it. And I kind of, as she was talking about it, it did really help me understand it and it kind of process it better. And so I get where she's coming from. And, I do appreciate the affordable housing, especially at 50%, because, we've been trying to get down even lower than 50% at 30%. But one of the things, what she said, when you refinance and then you get that extension, it is a benefit, more of a benefit to the developers, especially if you're not extending the affordability out another 20 or 30 years. Because I've always thought about when the developers get an incentive to develop in our city or anywhere. I've heard this time and time again in other cities as well, not just in Minnetonka, but in Minneapolis. I've heard people talk about, well, the developers get, funding to create, they get like TIF or they may get bonding or whatever. And people always talk about that. And I really never understood it. And I was just talking to Mike today, is that I'm in my 5th year and I'm starting to really understand like the nuances of everything that's happening as being a council member. And so when Romali was explaining it, I started to think like, yeah, I get what she's saying, that we could in the future maybe have a conversation about this. It would be a good study question or conversation, our study session, to talk about how can we address this in the future, because I do see where, maybe we could do more in this area of requesting more. If you're going to extend the loan longer, then the affordability should be longer. Because sometimes I think, well, they're getting this money, but why can't the housing continue to be affordable? Maybe like land trust, those houses are always affordable. So maybe apartments should always be affordable. It shouldn't just stop at 30 years when the loan is complete. But we'll see. Thank you.
Ms. Wishnack?
I think, Mayor and council members, I think I should mention too that this does sit in a current TIF district, so I don't want you to think this is your only opportunity to negotiate, renegotiate, that sort of thing, because these are usually straightforward refinancing decisions, and whether or not you want to participate in that is your question tonight. If you wanted to renegotiate and extend affordability, that to me is another conversation that usually comes along with tax increment, which is already issued for this project as well. So I would hold that thought perhaps, and it's something that's always on our radar as staff. That's why we did the housing dashboard, to make sure we know when things expire and when we have those opportunities. And that, oh my goodness, we have a slideshow snafu. We'll get back to the right slide. But the the fact that you're not done with this conversation is my point. So with that, Mayor, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Wishnack. Council, any other comments? The thing that I would say, that the notion that has been brought forward tonight that I think deserves some further conversation, I don't want to hold this project up. I think the merit is there, and we want to move forward. But I think that idea of clearly when you extend the term, you reduce the monthly cost. The developer's cash flow goes up because the term has been spread out. And I don't know if statutorily we can tie the length of the affordability to the length of the loan, because I think typically the statute says 30 years, and we're kind of stuck with 30 years, and everything we've done has always been 30 years. We haven't done, other than land trust homes within reach, which has a 99-year land trust term. Everything that we do is 30 years. I'd love to be able to extend that. I don't think we have the legal flexibility to do that, and I'm not an attorney, and I'm not going to ask that question tonight, but I think it's a question that is worth considering at some future point. If that possibility existed, the longer we can make our affordable housing affordable, the better it is for the city and for our residents. So, I think that's a worthy, I appreciate Councilmember Maley and Councilmember Shack and Councilmember Coakley for bringing up ideas along those lines, because if there is a path that way, it would benefit our residents and benefit our affordable housing policies. So, beyond the scope of tonight, but something maybe to put on the parking lot. So, with that, we'll leave it. Do we have a motion? Would somebody like to make a motion? Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make the motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the issuance of multifamily housing revenue refunding bonds for the benefit of Roland Investments LLC pursuant to Minnesota statute as amended, I'm not going to say the statute, and approving the execution and delivery of the bonds and related documents.
Thank you, Councilmember Calvert. Is there a second? Councilmember Coakley.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Coakley. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romaley.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is the use of the Community Investment Fund to finance renovation of Ice Arena Rink B refrigeration improvement project. And Mr. Cuno, welcome again, and that's your report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Item 13D is the Ice Arena Rink B refrigeration improvement project. I'd like to point out that Kelly O'Day, our recreation director, and Kevin Moss, our facilities manager, are here tonight, eagerly awaiting the outcome of this item. We have 3 recommendations tonight. The use of community improvement funds requires a public hearing, so the first recommendation is to continue the public hearing and accept comments. The second is a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the use of community investment funds to finance improvements to Ice Rink B and award the contract for the project. And the third is amending CIPs and authorizing the Public Works Director to spend the allocated funds on the project without exceeding the budget. This project is related to the strategic profile for infrastructure and asset management, desired outcome 5.1 to improve reliability and efficiency of our utilities and facilities, as this project will extend the operational life of the facility as well as provide energy reduction and associated cost savings. So the existing refrigeration system was installed in 2003 and uses R22 refrigerant, which was banned by the EPA in 2020. So that type of refrigerant is no longer allowed to be manufactured or imported into the U.S. Due to the age and type of system, a new refrigeration system is needed. The old system will be removed and replaced with a new ammonia system, refrigeration system. This new system will include all new refrigeration, electrical, mechanical, and safety equipment. As you may recall, this project was originally bid last fall. One single bid was received at that time that was significantly higher than our budget, so that bid was rejected. At that time, direction was given to review the project for potential cost savings, revise the construction documents, and re-advertise the project to try to reduce the project cost. Recommendations from contractors included extending the project schedule, reducing the number of condensers on the project, and allowing contractors to provide value engineering suggestions with their bids. Council authorized the ad for bid on March 3rd, and bids were opened on May 22nd. 2 bids were received, with a low bid coming from Total Mechanical Services. Based on the bids, ad alternates, and voluntary deducts, staff is recommending awarding the base bid with add alternate number 2, which is fence screening around the new exterior equipment, and also taking the voluntary deduct for a total construction cost estimate of $2,137,400. With construction contingency and indirect costs, the total project cost is estimated at $2,335,000, which is about $550,000 less than the project bid last fall. The 2025 through 2029 CIP includes $2 million for the project, which is proposed to be funded through the Community Investment Fund. The remaining $335,000 for the project is coming from amendments to previous year CIPs and delaying a proposed vestibule improvements project that was going to be in the 2026 CIP. If awarded, the project will be completed in a 3 to 4 month time frame over the summer of 2026. So the 3 recommended actions tonight are to continue the public hearing and accept comments, motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the use of the Community Investment Fund to finance improvements to Ice Rink B and award the contract for the Rink B refrigeration improvement project, project number 25205, to Total Mechanical Services, Inc. in the amount of $2,137,400, which includes option 2 add and voluntary deducts. And number 3, amend the 2020 through 2024, the 2023 through 2027, and 2024 through 2028 CIPs, and authorize the Public Works Director to expend the allocated funds for project costs without further council approval, provided the total project costs do not exceed the project budget of $2,335,000. I'll turn it back to the mayor and council for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cuno. Council, any questions on this item? Looks pretty straightforward. So, seeing no questions, the public hearing is already open. So is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this item, use of the Community Investment Fund to pay for these improvements to the refrigeration system for Rink B? Is there anyone? All right, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, and I will bring it back to the council for consideration. Councilmember Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start by saying I think this is a worthy project. We've been down this road. I think I don't have any questions. I appreciate the time and effort that staff put into getting us into a more favorable position. With that said, as I considered this and really thought philosophically about where we've been on some of these recreational items in our discussions over the last couple of years, I understand that the ice arenas run at about a $200,000 in the red as far as the fund, and that this refrigeration system is estimated to last about 20 years. So if we're talking about we're running about $300,000 a year in the red with this. And so I want to consider as a council, as we go forward and we consider other recreation decisions, that perhaps we have a philosophical conversation about how we value whether something cash flows or doesn't, or what our philosophy is as a council on how I think about ice arenas, and I think that serves a very specific population. And I think about some of the other conversations and thoughts I've had about other projects, and they're maybe not philosophically consistent with, my position on the ice arena. So it's something that I'd like to just put out there to the council to think about, maybe as we consider our study sessions, and maybe we can think about matrix or something that identifies, what things are costing us to run, and how we can maybe use that to make some consistent decisions, and perhaps try to have policy that's philosophically consistent kind of across the board when we talk about recreation.
Thank you, Councilmember Shack. Are there other comments? Councilmember Romali.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to kind of second that idea of having kind of a matrix or something where we are looking at, you know, everything from, is this an enterprise fund? Is it something that's cash flowing or not? That said, hockey and being on the ice is such an identity issue for us here in Minnesota. That would be a tough one to say no to, but yeah, I definitely think that it's, if we're going to be rational about this in a time when, you know, budgets are really tight and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better in the foreseeable future in terms of cost to build and cost to construct, then I think that's a very worthy topic for discussion. Thank you.
Councilmember Calvert.
I appreciate all of these comments, and I've been asking for sort of rubrics and criteria for scoring all kinds of things, and I just think it's a, you know, just a good, maybe a best practice. That said, there are many, the thing about government is it's not a business, and I'm not always expecting a return on what we provide to the community. And so I think that is part of the, I think part of that rubric is, you know, maybe considering some of the intangibles also. So anyway, I appreciate what was said, and I'm always all for, you know, trying to be consistent, but also keeping in mind that, you know, some things you can't put a price on, and some of that has to do with community building and, you know, just creating a community where people can recreate doing the things that they can do, and we're just not always going to get a return on investment because we're government, we're not a business.
Other comments, council members? You know, I talked to Mr. Funk about this a little bit today too, and you know, I think the point that government is not a business, I think is a very valid point. At the same time, at a time when budgets are challenging, we need to ask ourselves the hard questions. And you know, it's not like we should expect that, okay, well, we're only going to pay for things that everybody in the city uses, because to be honest, there's no place in the city that everybody in the city uses. And we, you know, and it comes down to kind of a rhetorical question of what kind of city do we want to be? And we want to have the amenities that make our city attractive. And some are going to be profitable, like Williston. Right? They're going to more than break even, and some are not. And so some of the questions that I would like, because I agree that having the rigor to ask hard questions, you heard me say earlier, you are what you measure. I mean, it is worth measuring. But one of the measures is not only does something operate at a profit or a deficit, but what do analogous offerings in other cities, do they operate at a profit or a loss? Because I mean, you know, I just went back. When I moved here in 1982, demonstrating how old I am, and my brother and I would go to rink A, not rink B, to open skating, and we would see Jill Trenery there skating on the ice in Minnetonka, a Minnetonka girl who later was a 3-time world champion figure skater who learned to skate here. Now, you know, so when you consider that, you know, how much value can you put on saying, well, my city had a 3-time world champion figure skater who, by the way, happened to learn on the ice that our city owns. Now, again, some people may value that a lot. Some people may value that not at all. But I think that's part of it. We should look at these issues rigorously, but then also look them in the broader context. How do we compete with neighboring cities? Are we the only city that runs our skating rinks and not have them cash flow? Well, if that's the case, then maybe we need to take a look at doing things differently. If we're in the same boat as everyone else, and oh, by the way, this is, you know, the state of hockey, well, maybe that's just one of the costs that we bear to happen to be in Minnesota now. So I think it's a fair question. I appreciate the thoughts of my fellow council members. We should be rigorous. We should hold ourselves accountable, but let's also kind of look at it in a way that brings the perspective that is appropriate. Mr. Funk.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Just excuse me, thank you for the opportunity just to say a couple comments. One, I know we talked about the age of the system here this evening. So it's a 23-year-old system. And so the new life expectancy is 20 years. And why I say that is part of asset management. That's also one of the pillars in our strategic plan is we have a staff that's dedicated to ensuring reliable, high-quality infrastructure with all of our buildings and facilities. So we're recognizing this is also an asset that we need to maintain. And part of that maintenance of that asset is really reflective of how many people use it. And I know this wasn't in the staff report. Just to give you some context, the facility, that ice rink facility has 250,000 annual visits. In comparison to Williston's about 300,000. So it's very useful in our community. There are 6,000 public skate participants that use the facility each year. It's generally in operation 17 hours a day and 340 days a year. So it's a facility that does get used by our community quite extensively. So just for context, just to understand, it is something that gets used a lot.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Funk, and that context was very helpful. So, any further comments from council or a motion from anyone? Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor.
You know, you have to raise your hand above Councilmember Wilburn's head. Okay, there we go. I'm not.
I still look like I was sitting, but okay.
You do not have to duck down. That's above and beyond the call. So.
But I do just want to reiterate, I think all the comments up here on the dais are very important and the context is important, and that's why there are many variables that go into thinking about things like this, and they're all very important, and we do want to be prudent with our investments. So with that, I would like to make the motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the use of the Community Investment Fund to finance improvements to Ice Rink B and award the contract for the Rink B Refrigeration Improvement Project number 25205 to Total Mechanical Services, Inc. in the amount of $2,137,400, which includes option 2 add and voluntary deducts, and amend the 2020 to 2024, the 2023 to 2027, and the 2024 to 2028 CIPs, and authorize the Public Works Director to expend the allocated funds for project costs without further council approval, provided the project costs do not exceed the project budget of $2,335,000.
Thank you, Councilmember Calvert. Is there a second? Councilmember Romali?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second.
All right. We've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Romali. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romali,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Wearsum.
Yes, motion carries. That brings us to other business, and we have a couple of important items. 14A is to accept the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and it is comprehensive, and related audit reports with the city's audit firm, Bergen KDV. And Mr. Funk, I'll turn it to you first.
Yeah, again, thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce our auditor. He's already come up to the podium, Mr. Andrew Grice, who's from Bergen KDV, who will present the results of the city's 2024 financial audit. I'm also proud to share that our audit reflects what we already know about Minnetonka to be true, and that is Minnetonka is in a strong financial position. These results confirm that we are being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars and that our financial practices continue to align with the city's strategic priority of being a well fiscally managed city and managed organization. The strategic plan, I have copies of that strategic plan in front of you. It just happened to be, we had a number of extra copies because we've had our our strategic plan refresh. So those copies are in front of you. But I would just point you to financial strength. And the definition is that we're a financially responsible organization that delivers results. And I think that's really what we're here tonight, is to show you those results. Those three outcomes, or those three desired outcomes, are noted also in front of you, which is high level credit worthiness, improve alignment between expenditures and identify priorities. And I think you've heard Mr. Nelson and I talk to you about priorities budgeting. That goes to, I think, even what Dr. Councilmember Wilburn mentioned earlier, just with going back to the state of Minnesota and doing programs for so many years. And so we are going to take that deeper dive coming up regarding priorities-based budgeting. Then also expanding sources of revenues, expand sources of revenue for capital improvement projects. Then I just also want to take a moment to recognize and thank our outstanding staff, particularly our finance team led by Darren Nelson, for their professionalism, diligence, and commitment to excellence. My appreciation also goes beyond the finance team, because it's more than Mr. Nelson and our finance team, myself. It takes all of our directors, our managers, and really any of our staff that have any part of controls in terms of our expenditures and purchasing authority. And without following our systems and processes, this work wouldn't happen. And so that behind the scenes work ensures that not only do we meet our financial obligations, but do so with transparency, integrity, and long-term stability in mind. And I know Mr. Nelson has a few, I think probably some comments at the end, but with that, I'd like to turn it over, Mayor and Council, to Mr. Grice, who will walk us through the highlights of the audit. Thank you.
Mr. Grice, welcome.
All right, thank you, City Manager Funk. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, for having me here tonight. Do have the audit report to present for the year ended December 31st, 2024. I do believe we have a PowerPoint presentation, I think, loaded as well to highlight. There we go. Wanted to start by taking a look at our independent auditor's report that's included in the annual comprehensive financial report. So the city's annually prepares that ACFR, as we call it, and our role is to provide assurance as to the basic financial statements as to whether they present fairly in all material respects the financial position and changes in financial position of the city, and happy to report that we are providing a clean, unmodified opinion on the financial statement, which is the best that we can give as your auditors. We also provide some other reporting. We did want to highlight that here next being the report in accordance with government auditing standards. This report talks about internal control over financial reporting. Our role as your auditor is to provide in writing any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that come to our attention as part of our audit, and we had no findings to report for this year. We also had a single audit, and that's required whenever the city expends more than $750,000 or more in federal awards. That does trigger an additional single audit or a compliance audit, and that was on the Highway Planning and Construction Grant. We did note there that we were able to provide a clean, unmodified opinion on compliance. Also had no internal control findings to report related to that program. The last report that we have here is a report on Minnesota legal compliance. The Office of the State Auditor requires that we do report on their Minnesota legal compliance guides. That includes certain state statutes that relate to that are applicable to Minnesota cities. That includes taking a look at certain statutes that relate to the city's deposits and investments, contracts and bidding, conflicts of interest, other miscellaneous provisions, and we had no findings to report this year. One other piece of communication is our communications letter, which is also in the agenda packet. That includes all other required communication in accordance with audit standards. So that talks about the scope and timing of the audit, significant risks that might have been considered when planning and performing the audit, and some other information that's, again, required by audit standards. Also in that communications letter, as a courtesy, we do provide some charts and graphs, try to color up the numbers a little bit and make this a little bit more interesting. So we do have some trend data to take a look at this evening, starting with the general fund, taking a look at revenues, expenditures, as well as the assigned and unassigned fund balance here over the years presented. If all services remain the same over those 5 years, you'd still expect to see increases in each of those categories with inflationary and cost-related increases. So we do see expenditures and revenues at a high point in the years presented. Revenues at about 52.4 million, expenditures at 49.8 million, with again unrestricted fund balance and ending at about $27.5 million. The next chart that we have highlights the, again, unrestricted fund balance, which is made up of assigned and unassigned fund balance, as well as the next year's annual expenditures, which then provides a ratio there that you see to the right. That ratio helps to evaluate the city's financial health. It also kind of relates back to the city's fund balance policy. You can see that that ratio has declined since 2020, and that relates to some spend down of fund balance that has been planned within the budget, but also again, is that measure of financial health, and that's at about 50% here for 2024, which was in line with the city's fund balance policy. Again, same information here, but just in bar graph format. Also wanted to highlight general fund revenues here over the last 5 years. Here in 2024, we did see about 11.5% increase. The majority of that increase occurred in a couple different categories. Property taxes increased about $2.7 million with an increase in levy. Also saw increases in licenses and permits. That increased to $1.9 million, which with an increase in permits issued. And then intergovernmental revenues increased about $610,000 with an increase in public safety aid. Next, on the expenditure side, did see an increase there of about 7% here comparing 2023 and 2024. Public safety had the largest increase of about 7% or about $1.5 million with salary increases. General government increased about $1.5 million, again related to salaries, and then Parks and Recreation had some additional grant activity, the relief grant, which did provide for some additional expenditures here for 2024. Next, highlighting the budget to actual results, and this is a good way just to highlight City Council's role as it relates to the financial statements, and that's adopting and monitoring the budget. The final budget called for just over $50 million in revenue, $51.1 million in expenditures, and after net transfers out, anticipated a decline in fund balance of about $1.3 million. On the revenue side, that came in better than anticipated by about 5% or $2.4 million. Majority of that being driven by licenses and permits with increased building activity. So that area was over budget by about $2.2 million. Charges for services were over budget by about $353,000 or about 16% with increased recreation activity. Also an increase or more private duty police services than anticipated. And then miscellaneous and investment income is typically budgeted conservatively just based on just being conservative for market rates. That came in over budget by about $268,000. That was offset by taxes due to timing of delinquent collections. On the expenditure side, expenditures came in under budget by about 2.5%, mainly driven by vacant positions, again related to salaries coming in less than anticipated. Also wanted to highlight the Marsh Fund. This is a new activity over the years here for the city, so continue to monitor this fund's operations and specifically highlighting the budget to actual results here for 2024. The budget called for about $1.4 million in revenue, anticipated about $1.6 million in expenditures, and anticipated a decline in fund balance of about $212,000. There were more activity and related costs than anticipated, ultimately resulting in a deficit this year of about $327,000. The following charts here do highlight the enterprise funds of the city. These present a bit differently in that these are full accrual funds to give the readers information to evaluate whether the user charges that are established to provide resources for these services, whether those are sufficient to cover the related operating expense of providing that service. Here in 2024, the water and sewer utility operations did provide an operating income of about $4.2 million. We also provide a metric excluding depreciation. Depreciation expense is a non-cash operating expense. This gives a bit better indication in terms of cash flow in this fund, and that was a positive $9.2 million here for 2024. The environmental fund operations related to the recycling programs was fairly consistent between 2023 and 2024. Ultimately provided a surplus for the year of about $149,000. The Williston Center also saw a surplus this year in 2024 of about $306,000. That was the highest in the years presented, and as noted here, continues to be a positive trend here over the years presented. Grays Bay Marina has had very consistent operations here over the years presented, about a $33,000 surplus here for 2024. And then the stormwater operations also had consistent operations, a surplus of about $1.7 million for 2024. One thing to provide some additional information here just on performance of these funds, we did provide operating ratios. Anything below 100% means that there is a surplus there that is being put away in reserves there. When you see a lower percentage, it typically means that there are heavy infrastructure needs and that there are more resources maybe than other funds to, again, put resources away for any future capital needs that are being planned for. And as such, the utility Facility Fund was at about 54% here for 2024, compared to about 73% back in 2022. There were some significant maintenance projects back in 2023 that caused that to be a bit higher, but it's back to similar levels dating back to the previous 4 years. The other thing to highlight here, all funds here for 2024 did provide surpluses. All were very similar in terms of performance between the past 2 years. One other thing I wanted to highlight is the unrestricted net position in these funds. That is the metric of financial health when it comes to this full accrual basis of accounting in these enterprise funds. The Williston Center is the one fund that is in a negative unrestricted net position at the end of the year. If we compare that to the cash and investment balances, you can see that all of those are positive over the years presented, and that relates to some of the full accrual items that are included in the financial statement. So the Williston Center does have a significant amount of employees in that particular fund, and so on a full accrual basis of accounting, it takes into account the pension liability and the OPEB liability, which are liabilities the city will not have to actually write a check for, but is a true liability in terms of the portion that's unfunded at the state level and the proportionate share that the city is being allocated. So if you factor that out of the Williston Center operations, does have positive balance there over $1 million. So all funds in sound financial position. The last chart that we wanted to highlight is the tax capacity, tax levy, and tax rates. You can see here that the tax capacity rate has decreased over the last 5 years. It was at a low point back in 2023 at about 34.5% here for 2024, and overall, basically meaning that the market values, which are tied to the total tax capacity, are increasing at a greater rate than the city's tax levy, which is why it's at a lower point than the 2020 to 2022 timeframe. That's a high-level look at the financial reports and also the financial analysis. Next, I'd like to open it up for any questions.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Foster Bolton.
Can we go back to the communications letter?
Sure.
And I just want to have it explained because I don't, and you kind of touched on it when you were talking about the Williston Center and the OPBE, whatever that.
Sure. Yep. OPEB.
Because it talks about significant risks identified, and I don't get that. I don't get what I'm reading.
Sure. Yeah, it is it's audit-related language. There was a new audit standard a couple years ago that did require that we have to now provide in writing to the governing body any risks that we considered when performing our audit. And not to get too technical in terms of audit standards, but audit risks is a function of inherent risk and control risk. Control risk relates to the internal controls that the city has in place. Those are things that you can control in terms of how many, checks and balances that you might have. The inherent risk is something that you cannot control. And those risks that you're seeing in there are inherent risks that we identified that we don't believe any city that we audit can control. That, for example, just due to the nature of a management position, there's always a risk that management could override those controls because the management position is, a senior position, and they may have ability to override some of those just based on the nature of that position. For example, assets, because they hold a value, there's always a risk that they can be misappropriated. Because revenue is such a significant number in your financial statements, and because there's so many complexities in how those are recorded, there's always a risk that those could be recorded improperly. So it's nothing that's related directly to the city of Minnetonka. It relates to all cities that we audit.
Okay.
So there's no unique risks in this particular city that we don't see in all cities that we audit.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that explanation. Because I appreciate Councilmember Foster Bolton raising that too, because that was, please explain significant risks, and so that was, I appreciate you doing that.
Absolutely.
Are there other questions, council members? My three favorite words are no findings or no significant findings. Those are my three favorite audit words. I think that's one of the challenges that no system is foolproof as you've just suggested. I mean, if you have we have checks and balances because we don't have just one person looking at our financial reports. We have a lot of people looking at them, and they get a lot of scrutiny. But you do, when you're in a position of authority, those are the things that do potentially keep you awake at night. So I appreciate the diligence and the good audit report. It's very gratifying. Any other comments? Yes, Councilmember Romali.
Thank you. Actually, just a quick question. You do a lot of these for a lot of cities. How would you say Minnetonka stacks up?
Fairly well. In terms of being able to produce an annual comprehensive financial report, that's an elevated level of reporting. It's not required by state statutes. It's something that the city elects to do. And having a report with no findings, I mean, you're in the top tier just based on that piece alone. Obviously, our role as the auditor is just to give you just that opinion. In terms, I wish I could give you a bit more. But I think just kind of based on those results, I think you can feel good about being kind of in that top tier.
Thanks. I just wanted, I pretty much assumed as much, but I wanted to acknowledge staff for that and also let anybody who's watching or listening also know that. Coming from a third party, that means a lot. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Romali. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I work for our capital city in the finance department, and every other morning I am on our ACFR meetings where we're going over all the things that we need to pay attention to make sure that we have no findings or no significant findings. And I just want to say one thing. It makes it so much easier when we have a highly functional ERP system. And so I just want to extend extra acknowledgement to our finance staff, because we were working on a new ERP, it didn't work out, and I know that there are functionality issues, and so to produce this kind of result with a less than optimal tool to run the kinds of reports and keep the kinds of records that you need to keep, to have a clean audit report just shows that our finance staff and any of the staff that deals with our finances, I just want to thank all the staff for making those reports possible, for keeping the kind of records that every department needs to keep to make sure that that Mr. Nelson has what he needs to help our auditor produce these findings. And I'm just very proud. You would hope that every city or every level of government can have a clean audit report, but it's not. It doesn't happen with every city, and we've had such wonderful audits ever since I've been on the council. So it just makes me very proud of our staff and the work that they do, and thank you to you as well.
Thank you, Council. Are there any other comments that would? Now, I think our task is to accept the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. So, Mr. Nelson.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Andy. Mr. Mayor, council members, I just want to sneak in real quick. I want to thank Mr. Grice and his staff as well too with Bergen KDV. They do a great job. We work hand in hand with them throughout the year. If we have questions that come up throughout the year, we don't know how to handle something, they're there with a phone call to help us, guide us through that, so we don't run into issues when we come out this time of year and audit time and stuff like that. So I'd like to thank him, his staff. I'd like to also thank the departments. Every employee throughout the city contributes to this document. Whether they're purchasing something, whether they're paying a bill, they're coding a bill, it all goes into and follows our internal controls and really lays into our final document that gets put together on that end of it. So I want to shout out to them. I want to shout out to Joel Mary, our Assistant Finance Director, and Zach Hexall, our Senior Accountant. Those two put hours and hours into this document, and there aren't many cities that actually prepare the ACFR the way we do. A lot of times the auditors prepare it for them. We do it in-house here, and that saves us some money on our end, but it obviously puts some more illness on them to make sure it gets right on that end of it as well too. So I just wanted to say that real quickly. So thank you for all the accolades, appreciate it, and glad we had another great year on that end of it. So thank you.
Great, and well, I want to thank you both. Our auditing firm, thank you very much for your excellent work. And you know, Mr. Nelson and your team, you guys work pretty slavishly over all of this. But you know, Minnetonka's had a history and a legacy of strong financial reporting, and we get awards for the excellence of our financial reporting. And that didn't start just with the appearance of our current staff. We've got a proud history in that, and one of our 6 financial pillars is financial strength, and I'm proud of that. And and it didn't start with me being on the council. It started long before I got here, and it's part of our brand. It's part of who Minnetonka is, and so I think it's a reflection of our values, but also the excellent work of our staff and our supporting staff. So thank you all very much. It's a big deal. Thank you so much. Now, from an action perspective, we do have to accept the report, right? So, Councilmember Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make the motion to accept the 2024 annual comprehensive financial report and related audit reports with the city's audit firm, Bergen KBB.
Very good. And Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Shack and a second by Councilmember Foster Bolton. And I will just add, you know, Council, it's good for us to ask challenging questions. I mean, this is, you know, we are stewards of the public trust. And so our job is to ask challenging questions. And so it's gratifying to have an excellent team doing this work, but it is our job to ask. So I appreciate all the good questions that came forward. So Ms. Larson, would you please call roll?
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romalee,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. So that brings us to item 14B, which is a request to amend Resolution 2019-031, which approved the preliminary plat of Oakland Estates for a 4-lot subdivision at 1922 Oakland Road. And Ms. Thomas, I believe that is your report. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor Weersum, members of the council. Some of you will recall the Oakland Estates subdivision. It's located on the west side of Oakland Road, a 4-lot subdivision that you all approved back in 2019. And as is the case with all multi-lot subdivisions, the approval included a condition requiring that development occur and be maintained in substantial conformance with certain plans. And one of those plans was the grading, drainage, and erosion control plan. That plan essentially defined the initial development area of the site. It's shown on the right-hand side of your screen, outlined in red. To date, a house has been constructed on one of the lots at 1930 Oakland Road, and a house is currently under construction at 1934. The owner of the southerly lot, Lake West Development, is here this evening requesting an amendment to that condition of approval, requiring compliance with that certain grading and development plan. Specifically, the amendment would increase or expand the development area approved by the plan, and the increase would allow for construction of a pool and an accessory building on the site. In support of the request, and as was outlined in your attachments to your written report, the owner notes that there were several trees that were saved on the northerlymost lot that were slated for removal as part of the original development plan. They also note that the expanded tree area or expanded development area, though larger, would not require extensive grading, and that there would be trees preserved even within that expanded area. Staff does not support this request for 3 reasons, also outlined in your report. First is that the trees that have been preserved to date that were slated for removal, again, are on that northerly lot. That's a lot that's not controlled by the current applicant. Second is that the expanded area, if it were submitted in 2019 and staff had reviewed that, this plat would not have met the tree protection ordinance. Removal of trees, high priority trees specifically, would have been over 35%, which is the threshold outlined in the ordinance. And then finally, the owner has suggested that there are trees that staff is noting would be removed in this development area that can in fact be saved. Our city forester has been to the site and has noted that substantial damage has already been done to those trees, so it's doubtful that they would survive in the long term. So with that short presentation, staff is recommending denial of this request, and I would turn it back to the council for your questions or comments.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Council, any questions for staff on this item? Councilmember Romali.
Thank you, Mayor. Could you, Ms. Thomas, kind of explain again the issue of the tree ordinance issue? I'm not quite getting that. If some of the trees were not demolished, but they're not controlled by the applicant right now, I'm just kind of, a little fuzzy there.
Ms. Thomas.
Certainly, Council and Mr. Mayor. So the diagram on the left shows the development area that was approved in 2019. And as part of that, staff noted that there would be a certain number of trees that would be removed just based on the grading plan here. There were 4 trees shown on the northerlymost lot as removed in the 2019 plan. The current proposal, again, shows that expanded area. What staff did was we looked at how many trees would be removed if this expanded area had been shown in 2019, and obviously there would be more trees. These trees in the northeast corner of the site on Lot 1 that were shown for removal in 2019 have not been removed to date. And so I do understand the applicant's argument that there are actually 4 trees to give, as it were. The concern that staff has is those 4 trees are owned by this property owner, and they would have the right under this 2019 approval to remove those trees. So the owner of Lot 4 doesn't have the means or the legal means to protect those trees on Lot 1. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and so previously in 2019, this was before my time, those were all owned by the applicant at that point, and since then, Lot 1 has been sold?
Mayor Wiersum and council members, I'm not certain if that lot was specifically owned by the applicant, but that lot was part of the plat at that time.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I think.
Council, yep. Any other questions, council members? So, all right, no more questions. So, Mr. Fretham, I don't know if you have any, if anyone from your team would like to make some comments, please come forward, state your name, and tell us what you want us to know. Good evening.
Good evening. I don't know which one to use.
Well.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. And good evening, council and staff. So my name is Kelsey Thompson. I'm with Lake West Development. Our address is 14525 Highway 7 in Minnetonka. We did prepare a little presentation for tonight just to clear up some confusion around this request. So Julina here is going to pass out some packets. We have some for staff as well.
Very good. Thank you.
I think there are 3 packets for staff, so however you want to divvy those up.
Everyone get one? Go ahead.
All right. Okay, so page 1 of this packet, I'm going to start there. This is page 394 in the staff report. Just again, an overview of the 4-lot subdivision. So there's lot 1 on the north that staff referenced with the saved trees, lot 2, lot 3, and then lot 4. So lot 4 is the remaining property here that Lake West still owns. We decided to pull a building permit and begin construction on this home, which you'll see a picture of in a few pages. So with that, we are, after our home construction has started, we have applied for a pool permit in the backyard, and that's really what we're here for and about, is to get in that pool permit. And I'll explain that in a little bit. So there's been a little bit of confusion just about this project and tree removals, and so I'm just here tonight to kind of clear up some of that confusion. But that red line is what the staff report is showing as the development limit line, and within that line would be the development area, also known as a silt fence line, according to the plan. And I highlighted this section here in the background that says this site will be developed and maintained in substantial conformance with a grading, drainage, and erosion control plan with the date of February 7th of 2019, which is basically a screenshot of that erosion control plan on this page. And again, just going to walk you through a little bit of our proposal here tonight. So you can turn to the second page, and if you have any questions, you can certainly stop me to ask. So again, this is another page taken out of the staff report, 395, page 2 in our packet. So what I did here was so the area where that yellow is that the staff report highlights, that's the area where the pond, the pool is going to be going into, but we thoughtfully designed the pool and the landscaping plan to preserve those 5 trees that are highlighted in green. So the staff report is showing and calculating that those trees would be removed as a part of these plans, and that is not the case. Our plans do show those trees being preserved. And I'll get into that in a little bit more in the next few pages.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, can I just ask a quick
Yes.
question? I thought those were the trees that our forester said couldn't be preserved because they had been damaged. Are those different trees?
Those are the trees that the forester did say that they had concern over, which we addressed, and I'll get into in a couple of pages.
All right,
and you'll
thanks,
see
just
pictures
clarifying.
of those. Yeah, you bet. And we did note, of course, that those trees on the north were preserved only because that was an assignment we were given by the staff, was to go out and just take full inventory of the entire site. So we weren't arguing that we were trying to count those trees. Just wanted to note that they were preserved, although vetted for removal. And just wanted to address that the 2 options staff had laid out for us are we could wait the 2 years to remove the trees to put in the pool. According to the tree ordinance, it doesn't apply after you get the certificate of occupancy 2 years after that point. Or we could request this amendment to that red line that staff report is calling a development limit line. And really that if you can see the response in red, that 2-year wait period doesn't really apply to this because our pool plans are in conformance with the approved grading plan. They don't remove any more of the high priority trees, and it doesn't change the grading plan that was approved in 2019. You can move on to page 3. I'll meet you there. And so again, here's another page pulled out of the staff report, 396. This was just a calculation of those trees. So I just crossed out in red the 2025 approval or proposal. So we're proposing to remove 22 of the high priority trees, which is 30%, well under the 35% threshold of high priority trees that are allowed to be removed. All right. So page 4 is just a picture of this site. Maybe some of you have driven by the site. Maybe you're familiar with Oakland Road. But 1934 Oakland Road, which is the subject property that Lake West still owns out of the 4-lot subdivision, that is on the left. You can see it's been constructed. And then 1930 Oakland Road is the lot 3 that's, if you look back at the site plan, I guess that's on the screen, you can see lot 3 is the one that's just to the north of lot 4. Lot 4 is kind of the pizza-shaped lot. All right, and then so page 5, this is showing the grading, drainage, and erosion control plan. If you're all tracking. So this is the plan that the resolution references. This is the plan that staff has referenced in their staff report. So I highlighted in blue just where that, on this plan, the legend calls that a silt fence line, which is commonly referred to as a development limit line, or it could be a grading limit line. But I just wanted to point out that there are, like you can see those two dry well stormwater management systems on lots 3 and 4 that are circled in blue. Those are systems that need grading to install that and to construct that. That is outside of that line. So just pointing out that that line, the silt fence line with this plan, doesn't necessarily limit all the grading that needs to take place on the sites. All right, so then moving to page 6, this is getting a little bit more, just kind of puts it together, I think, in a better perspective. So I color-coded this plan. So this, again, is that grading, drainage, and erosion control plan. So the purple line is highlighting the silt fence line, or the grading limit line, or whatever you want to call it, I think he called it the development area line. And in the red on lot 3 is the neighbor's approved grading limit line or disturbance area line, with the work that they did in their backyard to put in the dry well stormwater management system that you see in the big 15-foot by 100-foot kind of rectangle in the backyard there. So that's something that we'll have to do on our lot as well as part of our approved plan. So again, outside of that approved, the purple line, they've got an area that they graded that was like just over 10,000 square feet. And then bringing you to the lot south of that, which is lot 4, the lot Lake West owns. So we're requesting that that line also be amended or changed as a condition of approval from this 2019 plan. And that yellow or orange area is where we're requesting to put in a pool. And those 5 trees that are highlighted in orange are the 5 trees that we are preserving as a part of our plan. Okay, we're following. I've got just a few more to kind of go through here. So this next page, so page 7, this is a certificate of the neighbor's lot, so 1930, the one just to the north that graded in their backyard. This is I did highlight it, so that's not part of their plan, but I highlighted this. But all of the like where the silt fence line is, you can see that's highlighted there, and that red dotted line, that's there. This is a document that I got from the city that shows their approved grading plan and their site plan. Again, showing that stormwater facility, and again, showing that that was outside of the original silt fence line or grading limit line, and they had that amended silt fence line or grading limit line. All right. The next pages, I think somebody had asked, oh, no, this is pictures of, so page 8 and 9, 2 pictures of the neighbor's backyard, just if you want another visual. I know sometimes reading these aerial plans is hard to see, but this is the neighboring property to the north of us, their backyard that they graded into beyond that originally approved silt fence line. And then page 10, this is taken from the staff report, from page 400 of the staff report, but this is also a page from the actual resolution from when Oakland Estates was approved in 2019. And so this is the section that's outlined in red that the staff report references. Subject to staff approval, Oakland Estates must be developed and maintained in substantial conformance with the following plans, which it points to the plans of the grading, drainage, and erosion control plan dated February 7th, which we reviewed already. And our response to that is that the pool permit plans are in substantial conformance with the grading, drainage, and erosion control plan dated February 7th, 2019, as shown in the pool permit application plans, which the permitting review team, staff, engineers have been reviewing. And so we'll see that in the next page. So page 11, these are our pool permit design plans. So we've reworked these several times with staff direction to preserve and save those 5 high priority trees that you'll see with a big red circle around them. So that big red circle is the critical root zone that the ordinance allows you to disturb, no more than 30% of that critical root zone. So our design for the pool and for the pool apron do not exceed impacting more than 30% of that critical root zone of those 5 high priority trees. Again, the resolution states 25 high priority trees are allowed to be removed, or no more than 25 trees, which is 35%. Where our plans remove 22 of those high priority trees, so we are preserving more than what would be allowed, and have thoughtfully designed this to really integrate this pool with the existing landscape to preserve these trees, and to be thoughtful about that. And so this is the plan that we, the applicant, are saying is in substantial conformance with the originally approved 2019 grading, erosion control, and drainage plan. And I should mention too that on this plan, so the engineering team asked us to put some spot elevations up on the corners of the pool and on the corners of the pool apron, just to show that we are in conformance with the existing grades that are there. So that you see the 967s on the corners of the pool plan. So just showing that there's no extra grading that is required to put in the pool, and there's no extra tree removal for the high priority trees that would be required to put in the pool. So just trying to clear up some of that confusion. We know that there have been multiple design iterations, so just want to make sure that we're clearing that up. On page 12, these are the 3 reasons that the staff report has laid out to recommend denial. I think that we went through these in the staff presentation, but we have a response to each of these. So one is, the trees that were shown on this plan in front of you on the screen, the ones that are circled in purple on the very top of the screen on lot 1, staff has mentioned that we can't take credit for those trees, and we totally understand that. We aren't asking to take credit for these preserved trees as we meet the tree ordinance, and we're moving less than 25 high priority trees with our pool plan, which is under the 35% that's allowed to be removed. And we were just following, again, staff's direction to take full site inventory to make sure that no extra high priority trees have been removed in the last 6 years since this was approved. And we found that actually several trees had been preserved with that. The second bullet point is if the development area proposed had been submitted in 2019, it would have not complied with the tree protection ordinance with the 35% of the high priority tree removal threshold. We disagree. We are not exceeding that threshold. Our plans clearly show that the 5 high priority trees are behind the house are being saved with the pool permit application and the design, and is in conformance with the approved grading plan. And then the third bullet point, which is after that little calculation table, says that the trees that the owner claims could be preserved are the large spruce and pine. Staff's concerned about these trees surviving due to some damage sustained during construction. So immediately upon notice of this, the contractor promptly repaired the tree protection fence, and we treated the bruised bark on the 2 tree trunks that this is referring to, which you can see in pictures 3 and 4. And I don't remember who asked the question, but these are the pictures I was referring to. So picture 3, you can see those 3 trees behind the house that are kind of more in a vertical alignment that are being preserved. There's a little black spot on the tree trunk where you can see we have treated the marking, the bruised tree trunk there. The silt fence, or the tree protection fence, is erect, as well as the 2 trees that are just behind the house, a little bit more to the north. So these 2 pictures are showing those 5 trees, those 5 high priority trees, which our pool plan again shows as saved. On All right, with that, I'm on the last page now. So this is page 15. It should have an excerpt from the tree protection ordinance, which we just wanted to reference the purpose of the tree protection ordinance, which I'm sure you're all very aware of. And but the purpose, it says the purpose of this subdivision is to encourage tree preservation by reasonably limiting the removal of trees during construction, site work, and land development activities. And our response to this is, we're not asking to remove more high priority trees than what was approved in 2019, and we are asking for reasonable use as it's related to the tree ordinance of the property at 1934 Oakland Road. So these trees are the trees that are vetted for removal, and the grading plan, whether there's a tree or whether the pool permit is approved or not, we're not changing anything to the approved plans. So we're just trying to get some clarity around this, to ask for your, to ask council to give staff direction to approve of the amendment to the line to allow for the pool permit, to allow us to put in a pool in the backyard of 1934 Oakland Road. That is our request. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I know there's a lot of pages to flip through regarding a pool permit as it relates to the trees. I also have Julina here who would like to speak about this, and I'll invite her up to the podium.
Please state your name and address, and please be brief.
Right. My name is Julina Fretham, and I'm a future resident of 1934 Oakland Road. I'm almost a senior at Minnetonka High School, and I have a younger sister who is about to be a freshman at Minnetonka High School who wishes she could be here tonight but can't because of practice. But both me and my sister hope that this application would be approved. We would enjoy it, and I was informed that there could be a potential wait for the approval, and for me that would not be ideal because I was hoping that I would have fun and spend more time with my family and friends before I leave for college. And so therefore, my family and I hope that you would find our application not unreasonable.
Thank you for your comments. All right. And is there anything else?
No, if you have questions, I'll work.
All right. Well, any questions for Ms. Thompson? Council? All right, I think you're good.
Yeah, no, I might.
Okay,
I'm
all right.
looking through, there's a lot of stuff there.
Go ahead, Councilmember Romalee.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify a quick couple things here. So there seems to be a couple things that are in contention, and one of which are the trees that staff say are probably not salvageable or likely to die subsequently. Is that correct? Versus our applicant here who is saying that these trees have been treated and are not going to be removed, and because they've been treated, they are likely to survive. Is that, am I getting the gist of that? Is that what you're arguing or what you're asserting here?
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, I would say that you are correct in your statement, and that I think there's been some confusion around whether these trees are being preserved with our landscaping and pool plans or if they're being asked to be removed. And we are here to clarify that we are not asking for removal of these 5 high priority trees.
Yep, thank you. I get that. I think what's at issue here is whether staff, based on experience, believes that these, you may not remove them, but if they're already damaged, they could die anyway. And so that's what I would want clarification on. So that would be the first thing that, thank you for clarifying that. I understand that you're not proposing to remove it.
Sure.
So I'm just trying to clarify this point of contention here. If staff could perhaps respond to that.
Mayor,
Ms. Thomas, please.
Mayor Wiersum and Council Member, we're certainly glad to see that the tree protection was reinstalled around these trees and in a larger area, and that there's protection there. I think that the city forester isn't here this evening, but has already suggested that just based on the damage that was already done when these photos were taken, is concerned about the the survivability, if you will, of those trees. There is no confusion on staff's part. We understand that it's the applicant's intention to not cut down these trees as part of this proposal. So we're not confused about that. We understand that. But we do believe that the damage has already been done to these trees.
And, I'm sorry, can I follow up?
Go ahead.
Thank you. And would staff also say, I know we don't have our forester here tonight, which is unfortunate, that all 5 of those trees then are presumed probably would not survive? Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct.
And so also then if those 5 were not to survive, would then the tree ordinance then would not be met, the requirements? Am I understanding that is also the case?
Mayor Wiersum and Councilmember Ramele, yes, those 5, I would have to look back on the numbers. I think that it's staff's suggestion, if I may go back to this diagram. I want to clarify, if I may, that the term confused was used a lot in the presentation, and I don't think that staff is confused about what the applicant is proposing. I think we just have a difference of opinion on this. If this line, this red line, had been in place in 2019, if this red line had gone back as proposed here, staff would, just as we did in all of these other cases, have suggested that those trees would be removed because that was the development area. So that is the contention here, that in 2019, had this development area, had the red line expanded back to cover this, what we're now showing as yellow area, these trees would have been counted as removed.
All of them,
so-
but they're not all being removed now. There's
Correct.
5. So
Correct.
that's what's being, and then, I'm sorry, this is just a little confusing, not maybe for staff, but for some of us reading this. And so the other lot, also could you speak to the fact, or to the assertion that the lot 3 had their silt line or development line extended, and what that means, what that means here? I'm just not...
Mayor and Council, I'll refer to the diagram that the applicant provided here. So if you will look at page 7, they're suggesting that the development area, the disturbed area, extended to that silt fence. Staff reviewed the grading plan, which is shown as part of this, and found that that was substantially compliant. Particularly, and we understood the stormwater retention area, which is also shown on the applicant's lot, if you look back on page 6.
Right.
So again, staff we just disagree with the findings of the applicant.
You disagree with the fact that the grading plan, I mean, because obviously the neighbor had to get this. I don't know if the applicant no longer owns lot 3, I assume, right? And so the new owner applied for that, kind of extended grading for the area, for the stormwater management well, is that correct?
Mayor Wiersum and Councilmember Ramele, no, that is incorrect.
Oh.
The grading plan, if staff were to draw this red area, we would not draw it the same as the applicant has here. We did understand that there was a stormwater retention area on this site with this grading plan, and we found that to be in substantial conformance with the original 2019 plan. If you look at the very first page, you'll see on each of the lots, 2, 3, and 4, stormwater areas outside of that red line.
And so you're saying, I'm sorry, that you foresaw that there might have to be grading done for those wells, for that grading. And so if this applicant came and said, hey, we want to do that for ours, then that would maybe be a different scenario here, that they would need to do grading in order to install the same well that lot number 3 did. Is that correct?
Mayor and council, yes, that would be correct. And I don't believe that we would be back here before the council on that specific request because the stormwater area, I don't know if you can see my cursor, was shown on both of these.
Right,
These.
at the
So,
original.
construction of those stormwater areas, perhaps this line should have been, there should have been a circle around these stormwater areas at the time. But the council clearly approved stormwater retention areas there and the construction of those.
So on lot, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, you're good.
Asking a lot of
You're good.
questions.
Well, if I may, the concept of a silt fence area is a new concept to me. I understand silt fences, and we require that they be put in, but I don't recall the council being privy to having to make decisions about the locations of silt fences. We make decisions about buildable areas. And I believe the diagram shown on our screen right now shows the buildable area, whereas the areas shown in orange and red here may have to do something with silt fences, but don't have anything to do with buildable areas. And I believe the applicant is attempting to conflate the two and extend their buildable areas. And in reality, we don't talk about silt fence areas. We let other people within the city deal with silt fences. As a council, we don't make those decisions. Is that a fair statement from a development perspective?
Mayor Worsom, I would agree with that statement, yes.
Very good. So we see some conflation here when in reality the buildable area was approved and has never been extended on either lot that we're talking about. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're really being asked to, one question, and Councilmember Maley brought it out clearly. Are the 5 trees in question going to survive? That we don't know the answer to that. And the city forester, who we do trust, has told us that the survivability of those 5 trees is likely. So the idea of conforming with, is unlikely. And so therefore the conformability of the proposal with the tree ordinance is highly unlikely. And we are talking about the extension of the buildable area, which has not been done in either lot. Is that, do I have this correct? So I provide that as information for my fellow council members for us to discuss. And we're not going to debate it. So I think, thank you very much for, Mr. Fretham, we are not, I'll tell you what, you're out of order. Please, you go sit down.
Buildable areas defined, it's on plat.
That's fine. We're going to discuss here. We've heard from you, and now it's our turn to discuss it. So, council, I'll bring this back to you. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. So, first, I'm going to preface my remarks by saying I always appreciate Lake West and Mr. Fretham kind of going to bat for, the person they're building for, or for, what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And I also appreciate that they often buy and try to develop some of the more difficult properties. I also have a long memory about this particular property. And I want to make clear also that I am not anti-development, and I am willing to be flexible, even if it means tree impacts, tree loss, other impacts, if it's for something that's community benefit, or if there are conditions outside the control of the applicant or the developer that make that it's outside of their control, and if we are somewhat flexible, that it might allow development, especially for, say, affordable housing or some other community benefit. But in my opinion, those conditions are not met here. I appreciate the mayor helping sort of clarify the thinking and line of questioning on this, and I also, we have to take the recommendations of staff very seriously, because they want development in our community, and for them to deny is not easy for them. And I don't want to, if I were to sort of ignore the recommendations, I would never do so lightly. There's also a pattern from this particular developer in activities like this, and it's almost like clockwork. So I wasn't surprised to see this come back, because I do remember when this property was sold, and Mr. Fretham came before the council and asked if he could cut down all the trees, because it was really hard for people to envision what their home would look like with all those, you know, pesky trees in the way. And my question to Mr. Fretham at the time was, do you know, in our city survey year after year, what people value the most? And it's the green space and the tree canopy. And that is why they live here. And so at the time, I remember my words. I said, that's a hard no from me. And in other developments, the same developer has used our tree protection ordinances as a cudgel against this council by following the letter of the law while absolutely violating the spirit of the law and cutting down a huge number of trees on the east side of Plymouth Road. And let me tell you, people call me up. They are upset about it. It's not just me that's upset about it. And so this is a pattern of behavior from this developer that just does not make, and I also have to say, this developer has come forward, including with that development, that was this close to approval from this body, and has come forward with other very intriguing and compelling ideas for development that were perilously close. But it's when we have to deal with things like this that it's very hard to see past sort of poor behavior and expectation of this body to cast aside our own ordinances, which are meant for not just protection of the environment, but character of neighborhoods and, you know, sort of health of, you know, our water quality and so on and so forth. There are reasons we have these ordinances, and they're, you know, they're not just to be cast aside lightly. If there was some huge community benefit, then fine. But a pool ain't it. And there isn't any kind of, you know, external conditions that are making it impossible to develop this property. There is buildable area. You can build a beautiful home there. I just walked down that street twice in the last few weeks and have been looking at those 4 lots. So part of our job here on the dais is to encourage development and still preserve the essential tree-lined character of our neighborhoods and the health and welfare of our community. And so I just, you know, I personally am going to follow staff's recommendation in this case, because the conditions for us to cast aside our ordinances and grant a variance are not met.
Councilor Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate Councilmember Calvert's historian nature on this particular project, because it does refresh my memory. And I agree with everything that was said, and so I'm not going to repeat it. But I will say that on my best day, when I have a very compelling situation before me and a challenge to staff's recommendations, I am hard-pressed to trust anybody other than the experts that we have on staff. That is not today. Today is not my best day. We've got a developer who has not been totally credible when it comes to our tree ordinance and has not given us any reason to override the experts that we have on staff through just good faith. I can't do that, and history proves that that's not prudent in this particular instance. And so and I totally agree. If this was something compelling and a public benefit, I would think about it harder. But a pool, I mean, I love to swim, but this is, I can't get there.
And Councilmember Wilburn.
Okay, so for those of us who weren't here in 2019, can you? So originally I was going to ask if it would be possible to have the forester comment on whether they believe that the trees might survive after the repair and stuff. But now I'm wondering if that even matters because of this whole buildable area thing. So could you explain more to me about what the buildable area is and what would be needed to change the buildable area, et cetera?
Ms. Thomas.
Yeah. Mayor Wiersum and Councilmember Wilburn, I would again define this area as the development area of the site, which was again approved in 2019. The buildable area of the site as defined by code is what the setbacks are. The developable area is shown in this red area because that's what was approved by the council in 2019. That initial developable area. And I apologize, and maybe Ms. Wishnak can explain this better. What we are suggesting is if this red line had been drawn as the applicant is suggesting in 2019, all of the trees in that red line would have been seen as removed, would have been viewed as removed. I should clarify the high priority trees, and this development would have been over the 35% threshold in 2019. And so the development line was drawn as it were. Certainly if the line was pushed one way or the other, different trees may have been removed and not removed. So what staff has been suggesting is that this developable area on the site, the development area, would not meet the tree protection ordinance because of the removal of the trees in this yellow area. The applicant has suggested that they intend to save those 5 trees, so it really, the developable area or the development area doesn't really matter that much because they're saving those 5 trees. Staff has suggested that those 5 trees will not survive given the construction impacts that have already occurred.
Yeah, I think just to add to Ms. Thomas's points, and as a reminder for the council, when you sign off on these projects and when you do a plat, this plan is identified by date on the plan set and is part of your action. So as staff, we can't just say, oh no, you can't follow this plan. And hence why the developer has to come before you again because he's trying to amend your original action. So again, that might not be clear for the public. It's probably clearer for you, but for the public, it's part of the record and the resolution when this was originally approved. So that's probably the important piece about what's being asked tonight. There was an original condition that said this map should be followed. I'm making it more simplistic than it is, but hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Ms. Wishnak. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. So is there any other information that council needs to make a decision on this, or do we have the information we need, and would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll ask one
Co-
more
yeah,
question.
Councilmember Mailey.
And I understand I'm a newer council member, and so I don't have the history like Councilmember Wilburn, so just trying to kind of look at the facts here. And so my understanding is that if applicant waited 2 years, then they could go ahead with this. And my understanding from applicant was, from the report, was a little bit like, well, no, that wouldn't be possible because construction equipment couldn't get back there. But it looks like the house is already built, so I'm having trouble understanding that argument. So I think the argument, if it couldn't get through in 2 years, it certainly couldn't get through now since the facade is built. So if that isn't the case, I invite applicant, or I would, be open to hearing why that wouldn't be. Otherwise, I would, hearing the buildable area and all of these other issues, it seems like that would make sense, more sense than for us to go back unless we're basically granting a variance as if this was a brand new project, which it's not. So
I'll tell you what, we're not going to debate it. I appreciate Councilmember Mailey's question, but I think we're at a point where we can make a decision. You can, if we approve the staff's recommendation tonight, that's not to say you couldn't come back, but the passage of time is really the thing that would enable a pool to be built here, because after 2 years of ownership of the property, to me, that's the more likely approach, because if we said, well, we're going to wait and see if those trees survive, we can get an opinion from the forester's already weighed in. If we said, well, we're not going to believe the forester, we're going to believe those trees are going to survive, I would argue that it's going to take 2 years. I mean, how long does it take for a tree to die anyway? So it's moot. I think it's highly unlikely that we are going to modify what's happening tonight. The passage of time may do that. But I don't, so anyway, I'm predicting. I don't know how my fellow council members are going to vote, but I think I think we're in a position to take action. If we could get a motion, let's take action and decide where we are. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. And while I appreciate private property rights, I still have a problem with the 2-year rule. So, because I really like.
But it is our rule. It is our law.
It is our rule right
ordinance.
Today. So we'll keep working on that. But thank you, Mayor, and I'd like to make the motion to adopt the resolution denying the request.
Is there a second? Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Foster Bolton. Are there any last comments any council members would like to make? Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romaili,
yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Weirson.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is appointments and reappointments. We have none. Item 16 is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Councilmember Wilburn.
Excuse me. I move adjournment.
Is there a second? Councilmember Calvert.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Wilburn, a second by Councilmember Calvert. All in favor say aye.
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 We are adjourned. But don't go away.
I know. Can we have just like a 5-minute break?
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. We've got an EDA meeting, which shouldn't take long, but it will occur. start.
Yeah.
We don't need the city manager.
Okay.
We'll just go.
We are rebels, you cannot stop us.
That's right. We should put all our hands in, right? All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It is still Monday, June 9th, 2025. This is a meeting of the City of Minnetonka Economic Development Authority. I will call this meeting to order, and I will ask Ms. Larson to please call roll.
Foster Bolton.
Here.
Shack.
Here.
Wilburn.
Here.
Calvert.
Here.
Romalee.
Here.
Coakley.
Here.
Wearsum.
Here. Next item is approval of the agenda, and Ms. Wishnack, I believe, do you have anything to add?
There are no changes. Thank you.
All right. All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Commissioner Calvert.
Thank you, Mr. President. So moved.
And is there a Commissioner Foster Bolton?
I second.
All right. Got a motion by Commissioner Calvert and a second by Commissioner Foster Bolton. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romalee.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Wearsum.
Yes, motion carries. Item 4 is approval of the minutes, and we have one set of minutes, the February 10th, 2025 EDA minutes. Does anyone have any comments or a motion? Commissioner Calvert.
I move approval of the February 10th, 2025 EDA meeting minutes.
And a second, Commissioner Shack.
Thank you. A second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Calvert and a second by Commissioner Shack. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romalee.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Wearsum.
Yes, motion carries. Item 5 is business items, and 5A is the Roland Investment LLC refinancing of Chase at 9 Mile Creek, found at 5709 Roland Road. And there is a staff report, and Ms. Wishnack.
Yes, just a note that your action is a little bit different on this one than it was in the council action. So, the recommended action at the bottom of the screen is adopting the resolution approving the delivery and execution of the amended, it's called an assignment and subordination of the development agreement and tax increment financing documents with Roland Investments and Huntington National Bank. So what you were doing the first time was approving the bond to be issued. Now we're doing the actual loan agreement. So
Very good. And the
hopefully
loan
that's helpful.
agreement is in the packet. Commissioners, do you have any questions of staff? So seeing none, is Commissioner Wilburn?
I move that we, excuse me, that we adopt the resolution approving the execution and delivery of an amended and restated assignment and subordination of development agreement and tax increment financing documents with Roland Investments LLC and the Huntington National Bank.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilburn. Is there a second? Commissioner Calvert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Wilburn and a second by Commissioner Calvert. Are there any last comments by anyone? If not, Ms. Larson, would you please call roll?
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romalee.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Wearsum.
Yes, motion carries. So I'm proud to say that I called Ms. Larson by the correct name the entire night. So that was good. And it's much easier in the EDA because, these things happen so quickly. But anyway, so the last item on the agenda is adjournment. Is Commissioner Wilburn.
I move adjournment.
And is there a second? Commissioner Calvert?
Second.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Wilburn, a second by Commissioner Calvert. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.